Chapter 366. 100% Mastery. Yi Xian had already used Beast King's Rampage a few times. If he used it again, he would have to use up 100 sacred beast corpses with 10 dragons of strength each. That was a huge number. He did not know if he would need 100 sacred beast corpses with 20 dragons of strength each time he used Beast King's Rampage. He would save as much as he could. But now, it seemed like he had no other choice. If he did not kill these two people, he would not be able to leave. Since you want to die so badly, I'll fulfill your wish. Yi Xian's eyes flashed. Although it was a pity to waste one Beast King's Rampage, one should not forget that these two people might have heaven-level movement techniques. Switch! Yi Xian widened his eyes and prepared to use Beast King's Rampage. With 19 dragons of strength, if he used Beast King's Rampage, his strength would increase to 25 dragons. He would definitely be able to kill the two people in front of him. However, at this moment, a series of system notifications rang in his mind. Ding! The proficiency of the Heavenly Wind Sword technique has increased by 10%. It is currently at 100% mastery. Its power has doubled. When he heard this notification, Yi Xian's expression froze. 100% mastery. Its power doubled? Haha, the heavens are helping me. Yi Xian suddenly roared, and his attacks instantly doubled. What? The one-eyed elder and the middle-aged man were shocked. Originally, they were evenly matched with Yi Xian, but now, Yi Xian's attacks suddenly became much stronger? 100% mastery. This person's Heavenly Wind Sword technique has already reached 100% mastery? Someone in the Water Moon sect camp exclaimed. What, 100% mastery? When this was said, the others widened their eyes in disbelief. The Heavenly Wind Sword technique was actually created by an expert from the Water Moon sect hundreds of years ago. After he created this martial art, he spent a few decades perfecting it. He was the first person to master the Heavenly Wind Sword technique to 100% mastery. However, after him, no one else was able to master this martial art to 100% mastery. Not a single one. If a martial art was trained to 100% mastery, its power would be greatly increased. None of the people present had practiced a single martial art to 100% mastery. From this, one could see how difficult it was. And now it had actually appeared. Die, you two old thieves! Yi Xian's arrogance surged as he chased after the one-eyed old man and the middle-aged man. Twice the power, in addition to the 40% increase in sword skill power from the Sword Saint's bloodline, caused Yi Xian to become more and more courageous as he fought. The two of them were already thinking of retreating. They understood that the current Yi Xian was no longer someone that the two of them could fight together. Go! The one-eyed old man growled. What a joke! You think you can come and go as you please? Yi Xian sneered. Holding the dragon-slaying sword with both hands, he slashed at the two of them. Dragon-slaying sword of 8 desolation. Dragon's judgment. Not good. The one-eyed old man reacted quickly and leaped away. Swish! A cold light flashed and instantly swept past the middle-aged man's body, splitting him in half. This move was Yi Xian's trump card. It was extremely powerful and was waiting for the moment when the opponent was escaping to take them by surprise. Seeing the middle-aged man fall, the one-eyed old man couldn't help but gulp and retreat at full speed. Yi Xian swallowed a few pills and quickly followed. Just now, they were able to fight evenly with Yi Xian when it was 2 against 1. Now that it was 1 against 1, the one-eyed old man wouldn't survive for long. 3 seconds later. No! The one-eyed old man howled at the sky. Immediately after, he felt a cold sensation in his throat as Yi Xian cut off his head. 2 experts with 21 dragons of strength had died at the hands of Yi Xian. This strength was enough to intimidate the experts of the 3 sects who followed them. Should we make a move? An elder of the Silver Moon sect asked in a low voice. Don't do that. This person is strong and must have a strong background. We can't risk making an enemy out of him. An elder immediately said. At this moment, there were more than 10 experts of the 3 sects here. Each of them had more than 20 dragons of strength. However, they were wary of Yi Xian's strength. After killing the one-eyed old man, Yi Xian glanced at the elders. Then, he took the interspatial rings of the 2 corpses and disappeared in front of the crowd. After leaving, Yi Xian summoned Wei Zhentian and found a quiet place on top of a mountain. Ding! The host has broken through to 20 dragons of strength. There were many good things in the interspatial rings of the one-eyed old man and the middle-aged man. Yi Xian directly swallowed them and successfully broke through to 20 dragons of strength. As for the other things in the interspatial rings, naturally, Yi Xian was looking for a heaven-class body movement technique. Moreover, both of them had learned the same body movement technique. Ding! The host has learned the heaven-shattering body movement technique. The current level is 10%. It was undeniable that Yi Xian had struck gold this time. The heaven-shattering body movement technique was the best of the low-class heaven-class martial arts. The only drawback was that it would damage the meridians of the feet and required the use of expensive elixirs regularly. However, it was a perfect match for Yi Xian, who had the bloodline of the Thousand Flowers. The Heavenly Wind Sword technique has the bloodline of the Sword Saint, so it's very fast to cultivate. I'm afraid I'll have to work harder on the heaven-shattering body movement technique. Yi Xian muttered. At this moment, the rock spirit suddenly jumped onto his leg and waved its 2 matchstick-sized arms. You want those heaven-class weapons? Okay, I'll give them all to you. Yi Xian nodded and poured out a large number of heaven-class weapons. There were more than 50 of them. If these heaven-class weapons were sold, they could be used to buy 2 heaven-class martial arts. However, if these were all given to Wei Zhentian, it should be able to increase his strength to the level of 20 dragons. This time, apart from these gains, Yi Xian also had quite a number of heaven-class martial arts. He stored these martial arts into the engulfing system one by one, and then proceeded with martial arts fusion. Ding! Martial arts fusion failed. Ding! Martial arts fusion failed. Ding! Martial arts fusion failed. A series of notifications rang out. Yi Xian's expression became more and more helpless. He had failed to fuse a total of 10 heaven-class martial arts. Although he could still learn the martial arts that had failed, Yi Xian had already mastered the Heavenly Wind Sword technique to 100%, so there was no need for him to do so. In the following days, he practiced the heaven-shattering body movement technique. With his aptitude, he was able to cultivate the heaven-shattering body movement technique to 40% completion. At this time, 7 days had passed since the end of the martial arts conference. 40% completion of the heaven-class body movement technique has at least doubled my strength. With my strength of 20 dragons, I'm afraid that I can fight against an expert of 27 or 28 dragons. If I use Beast King's Rage, I can even kill 30 dragons. Yi Xian was bursting with confidence. Chapter 367. Silver Moon Thief. Today, Yi Xian wanted to go to a city to get some materials and refine heavenly artifacts and medicinal pills. He rode on Wei Zhentian and arrived at the largest city in the vicinity. It was already dark. However, just as he was about to land in the city, a group of people rushed out. Quick, catch him, don't let him get away. How dare he steal from the Silver Moon clan? He's courting death. This batch of goods is very valuable. We must get it back. Silver Moon Thief. Don't even think about leaving. The city below was noisy and roaring. Yi Xian, who was riding on Wei Zhentian, heard everything clearly. Silver Moon Thief? After hearing this name, Yi Xian's body trembled. He had heard of this Silver Moon Thief before. This was the person who had formed a group of thieves called the Silver Moon Group. They specialized in stealing from the Silver Moon Clan, the Water Moon Clan, and the Broken Moon Clan. It was because of this Silver Moon Thief that he was misunderstood and chased by the manager of the Broken Moon Clan. This Silver Moon Thief is the leader of the Silver Moon Group. I've heard that he's very skilled in movement techniques and can come and go like the wind. Even experts with 30 dragon strength couldn't catch up to him. Why is he being chased by a group of people with over 10 dragon strength? Yi Xian thought to himself in surprise. Go, everyone go! This Silver Moon Thief was heavily injured by the clan leader a few days ago. He's only at 30% of his strength at most. Whoever kills him will be rewarded greatly. A manager of the Silver Moon clan yelled. Hearing this, Yi Xian finally understood that the Silver Moon Thief was heavily injured. At this moment, he was also interested in this Silver Moon Thief. A Silver Moon Thief who had stolen a large amount of treasures from the 3 clans must be very rich. In this world, the strong were respected. Killing people and stealing treasures was common. Therefore, he was wondering if he should attack directly. However, considering that this place was close to a city, he decided to wait first. Silver Moon Thief. Don't run. More than a dozen experts chased after the silver-clothed, silver-masked Silver Moon Thief, while Yi Xian watched from above. The two parties ran for a full 10 minutes before they finally stopped. No, to be precise, it was the Silver Moon Thief who stopped. Do you think you can't escape and want to counterattack? Yi Xian, who was in the air, paused as he looked at the two parties. At this time, the Silver Moon Thief suddenly took out a sword and attacked the Silver Moon sect. Dang! In the blink of an eye, more than 10 people surrounded the Silver Moon Thief and began to attack. However, these people were all taken care of by the Silver Moon Thief within 10 seconds. Not a single one of them. Didn't they say that the Silver Moon Thief was heavily injured? Why does he still have the combat power of 20 dragons? Seeing this, Yi was shocked. Silver Moon Thief, Silver Moon Thief, Silver Moon Thief, Silver Moon Thief to dragon. Yi Xian, to be honest, Yi Xian thought to himself. At this moment, he was already behind a large tree, quietly observing the situation. While the Silver Moon Thief was fighting with the pursuers of the Silver Moon sect, he had quietly landed in a forest on the left side and used the bloodline of the Shadow Leopard to hide. Now that the Silver Moon Thief had killed all these people, it was time for him to make his move. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. He loved to take advantage of this situation. However, just as he was about to make a move, another team suddenly charged over from not far away, causing him to involuntarily stop. There were 5 people in this team, and they were all wearing the Silver Moon sect's elder robes. They were very strong, and all of them were around 25 dragons. The leader was an expert with 27 dragons. An expert who came to capture the Silver Moon Thief? Yi Xian held himself back. 425 dragons, plus 127 dragons, he could still deal with them. However, this would mean that he would be going against the Silver Moon sect. This team moved extremely quickly and quickly arrived in front of the Silver Moon Thief. What was strange was that the Silver Moon Thief did not run away. Could it be that he knew that he could not escape? Silver Moon, you little thief, I've finally caught you. Just surrender and return the things of my Silver Moon sect. Perhaps the sect leader will spare your life. The 27th Dragon Elder leading the group shouted coldly. Haha, are you kidding? The Silver Moon Thief laughed. After hearing this voice, the 5 elders of the Silver Moon sect were startled. They seemed to have heard this voice somewhere before. Humph. Since you want to die, don't blame us for being merciless. The elder of the 27 dragons shouted coldly and rushed out. The 425 dragon experts behind him also quickly pounced towards the Silver Moon Thief. At this moment, a black shadow suddenly appeared from the right side of the forest and quickly arrived in front of the Silver Moon Thief. Another accomplice? The 5 elders were all shocked because they saw that the speed of the black shadow was even faster than them. After the black shadow appeared, it blocked the path of the Silver Moon Thief. Then it charged forward. Around its body, there were 3 large flying dragons. 30 dragon power. Not good, retreat. The leading elder opened his eyes wide and shouted loudly. He did not expect that there would be an expert with 30 dragon power here. One should know that this was an expert on the same level as the Silver Moon sect's sect leader. Even if the 5 of them joined forces, they would not be able to fight against one of his hands. Therefore, they could only retreat. You want to leave? The black shadow's eyes flickered. In an instant, he arrived in front of an elder. Then, he waved the long sword in his hand and a head flew into the air. Instant kill. Elder Chen. An elder who had a good relationship with the dead saw this and his eyes immediately turned red. He shouted loudly, "Bastard, I'll fight you to the death." However, there was a huge gap between 25 dragons and 30 dragons. Unless one was a genius, it was impossible to fight. Hiss. Another head flew up, and the second elder fell. The black shadow's strength was shocking. In the blink of an eye, he killed 2 elders. And the time was only 1 second. 2 people in 1 second. This was the difference. After another second, the other 2 elders with 25 dragon power were also killed by him. Now, only the one with 27 dragon power was left. The leading elder panicked and hurriedly shouted, "Stop, I am the Silver Moon sect's great elder. You dare to kill me?" However, the black shadow's sword did not hesitate at all and directly cut the elder's throat. Hiss. The last head flew into the air. This group of elders responsible for capturing the Silver Moon Thief was completely destroyed. What terrifying strength. If I use Beast King Rampage, I'm afraid I can only fight. It will be very difficult to kill him. Chapter 368. The true face. At this moment, the Silver Moon Thief started to clean up the battlefield. The black-clothed man took off his face cloth. He was an ordinary middle-aged man. Father, you are really ruthless. He is the great elder of our Silver Moon sect. The Silver Moon Thief said as he cleaned up the battlefield. So what? The middle-aged man looked at him coldly without any expression. Father, you are really cold-blooded. The great elder has worked hard for our Silver Moon sect for so many years. You didn't even hesitate when you killed him. The Silver Moon Thief also took off his face cloth. He was a young man. If the great elder of the 27 dragons suddenly had a momentary recovery and saw these two people, he would be so angry that he would die again. He was very familiar with the Silver Moon Thief because he was the young sect leader of the Silver Moon sect. The black-clothed man was the sect leader of the Silver Moon sect. In short, the great elder died in the hands of his own people. The great elder has been in charge of Spring Prosperity City for so many years. He has done many shady things. A few days ago, he attacked the delivery team of our Silver Moon sect and blamed it on our Silver Moon group. He deserved to die. The sect leader of the Silver Moon sect snorted. Aren't we doing the same thing? The Silver Moon Thief kept all the interspatial rings in a cloth bag and walked over. Stop talking nonsense. Dispose of these things as usual. I will return to the Silver Moon sect first. The sect leader of the Silver Moon sect said. He put on the black face cloth and left quickly. The Silver Moon Thief weighed the interspatial rings in the cloth bag and put on the face cloth. He then ran towards the forest. Coincidentally, the forest in front of him was the one Yi Xian was hiding in. The Silver Moon group was formed by the sect leader of the Silver Moon sect. He is really good to set up such a trap. Yi Xian heard the conversation between the two and felt that it was unbelievable. Who would have thought that the sect leader of the Silver Moon sect would form the famous Silver Moon group to kill the delivery team of the three sects? The sect leader even killed the great elder of his own sect. If this was spread, no one would believe it. But the truth was right in front of him. This was what Yi Xian had heard with his own ears. Yi Xian, who was hiding in the forest, saw the Silver Moon Thief walking towards him. His eyes flickered. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. Originally, he did not have the confidence to defeat the Silver Moon sect master who had 30 dragon power. Now he had confidence. Previously, he had heard that the Silver Moon Thief had been severely injured by the Silver Moon sect leader. This was definitely fake. It was just a show put on by the father and son. However, it was rumored that the Silver Moon Thief was able to contend with a powerhouse with 30 dragon power. This should be true. However, what the Silver Moon Thief had to face next was Yi Xian. However, when the Silver Moon Thief was only 100 meters away from Yi Xian's hiding place, there was a sudden movement in the forest. Yi Xian, who was hiding in the shadows, frowned. In the next moment, his eyes suddenly widened. The Silver Moon sect leader must have discovered me. He must have pretended to leave and then ambushed me from behind. He immediately understood. The Silver Moon Thief was actually bait. Beast King Rage Kill. He widened his eyes and immediately used his greatest trump card. The 20 dragon power in his body instantly soared to 27 dragon power. The 8 Desolation sword was already in his hand. He then slashed down fiercely. 8 Desolation sword. Dragon's Judgment. Die! The Silver Moon Thief was already prepared. However, he did not expect Yi Xian to have 27 dragon power. Moreover, the speed of his martial arts was extremely fast. Rip! Before he could react, he was cut in half by the Dragon's Judgment. Before the two halves of his body fell to the ground, the interspatial ring in his hand and the cloth bag with a large number of interspatial rings were taken away by Yi Xian. Devour! Yi Xian poured the contents of the interspatial ring into the devouring space and directly devoured them. Ding! The host has broken through to 25 dragon power. Although these things only increased his dragon power by 5, don't forget that he had just used Beast King Rage. Beast King Rage could increase his physique by 30%. You killed my son. I'll take your life. A black figure charged out from the forest. It was the Silver Moon sect leader. However, when he saw the number of dragons flying around Yi Xian, he was stunned. There were a total of 6 dragons. 3 big, 3 small. 33 dragon power. Yi Xian only had 30 dragon power, which was 3 dragon power higher than him. How can there be an expert with 33 dragon power in this area? This is impossible. The Silver Moon sect leader stopped in his tracks. This area was led by the Silver Moon sect, the Broken Moon sect and the Water Moon sect. However, if these 3 sects were placed in the Luo Sha region, they would not even be ranked. If the Luo Sha region was a country, then the combined influence of these 3 sects would only be a small village. Moreover, it would be a very poor village. At this time, Yi Xian grinned and charged towards him. His speed was probably twice as fast as his. Fast. So fast. The Silver Moon sect leader instinctively raised his long sword to block, but in the next moment, his face fell. Heavenly Wind Sword technique at 100% completion? The Silver Moon sect leader's heart turned cold, and despair appeared on his face. If such an expert wanted to kill him, there was no way he would be able to survive. Slash! A series of crisp sounds rang out in the forest, followed by the sound of a head falling to the ground. The Silver Moon sect leader, 30 dragon power, died. Yi Xian grinned. He was really lucky this time to encounter such a thing. There were many things in the Silver Moon sect leader's universe ring. Together with the 20 universe rings, he had broken through to 25 dragon power. Now, he wanted to see how many good things were in the Silver Moon sect leader's universe ring. Great, this is great. This feels so good. Yi Xian poured the things in the universe ring into the devouring space and devoured them. Ding, the host has broken through to 28 dragon power. When he heard the system's notification, he could not help but smile. After the Beast King rampage, he had reached 37 dragon power. If he added the heaven-shattering body technique and 20% of his movement speed, his speed would probably surpass that of an average 40 dragon power. It was a huge leap. This time, the Beast King rampage consumed 100 sacred beast corpses with 20 dragon power. Next time, it will be the sacred beast corpses with 30 dragon power. It's better to use the Beast King rampage less. Yi Xian was heartbroken. The number of sacred beast corpses required for the Beast King rampage would increase according to his cultivation level and the number of times he used it. Fortunately, he had gained a lot. Otherwise, he could not afford to use the Beast King rampage next time. Let's leave first. Chapter 369. Precious Tree Sect. The Silver Moon Society is a bandit group that instills fear in this area. There are countless treasures, ores, and heavenly items in the Silver Moon Thief and Sect Head storage rings. Yi Xian took out a large amount of useless ores and low-rank heavenly items. These were all food for Wei Zhentian. When Wei Zhentian saw these piles of food, he immediately jumped over excitedly and began to eat madly. What do you think? Follow me, all right? Yi Xian probed. Wei Zhentian quickly nodded when he heard this. After taking in the Sacred Beast Growth Plan, as long as he had enough resources, his speed of growth wouldn't be any slower than Yi Xian's. Apart from these items, there were naturally many other good items. The Silver Moon Sect head had a large amount of martial arts in his storage ring. Among them, there were more than 30 heavenly rank sword methods. Immediately, Yi Xian began to integrate these heavenly rank martial arts. Ding! Martial arts integration failed. Ding! Martial arts integration failed. Ding! Martial arts integration failed. A series of system notifications rang out. Damn! Isn't this success rate a bit too low? I've already integrated 25 times and used 50 different heavenly rank martial arts, but I haven't succeeded even once. Yi Xian was slightly helpless. He estimated that the success rate of martial arts integration wasn't even 5%. With his many years of experience in online games, he felt that martial arts integration was a bottomless pit. Although the Heavenly Wind Sword method was only a low-rank heavenly rank martial arts, Yi Xian had already mastered it to 100%. Yi Xian thought that if he didn't obtain that kind of supreme rank martial arts, he'd better use the Heavenly Wind Sword method first. There were still many good items in the Silver Moon Sect head storage ring. Yi Xian spent the rest of the time looking through them. A map. Yi Xian suddenly took out a simple and unadorned map. This map was drawn on a type of animal skin. It didn't look like a treasure map, but there was a cross on it, as well as some words. After reading it, Yi Xian also understood what this map was. This was indeed a treasure map, but there were countless similar maps. The cross on the map was the ruins of a sect called the Precious Tree Sect. So that's how it is. Someone discovered the ruins of the Precious Tree Sect that was destroyed 1,000 years ago, but didn't have the strength to go down and investigate. So they're using this method to gather large numbers of experts to explore? The location on the map was just a gathering place. No one knew which sect's entrance was. If they were interested, they could arrive on a specific date. The Precious Tree Sect, huh? Let me first investigate what kind of sect this is. With that thought in mind, Yi Xian left. Obviously, he was very interested in the ruins. Furthermore, there was only half a month left before the gathering, so he had to be prepared. He first flew to a city on Wei Zhentian and inquired about the Precious Tree Sect. The Precious Tree Sect had been a famous sect 1,000 years ago. Everyone knew of it. Everyone knew that the sect had 3,000 disciples when it was at its peak. The sect head was an expert with 50 dragons of strength. Every disciple in the sect knew how to plant natural treasures. Almost all of the natural treasures in that area came from the sect. However, something happened later on that led to the sect's destruction. A rumor suddenly spread within the sect. It was rumored that the Precious Tree Sect had planted a rainbow tree. This tree would bear a rainbow fruit every 10 years. If someone consumed this rainbow fruit, they would be able to break through to 60 dragon strength. At that time, the strongest expert in that area only had 55 dragons of strength at most. Bearing a rainbow fruit every 10 years meant that an expert with 60 dragons of strength could be cultivated in 10 years. Therefore, the Precious Tree Sect became the target of many and was destroyed by the alliance of several sections. All of the senior executives of the sect had perished, and countless disciples had died. However, after the alliance of sects had destroyed the sect, they discovered that the rainbow tree didn't exist at all. Someone had purposely leaked the news that they had been used. However, since the matter had already happened, they went all the way and tore down the Precious Tree Sect. All of the resources within were plundered, and the Precious Tree Sect was destroyed as a result. As for the map that Yi Xian had obtained today, it was unknown who had leaked it. The words on the map pointed out that the rainbow tree really did exist. This was because the Precious Tree Sect that had been destroyed 1,000 years ago was just a cover. The rainbow tree was in another place, and the person who'd cultivated it was the sect head of the Precious Tree Sect. Yi Xian also doubted the authenticity of this. However, he reckoned that there would definitely be many people who would choose to go. If the rainbow tree really did exist, then it must have borne countless rainbow fruits. A single rainbow fruit was enough to drive everyone crazy. In addition, Yi Xian had already made his decision. He was going as well. This was because his support bloodline hadn't been raised to the peak yet. If he wanted to raise his myriad flower bloodline to the peak bloodline of the sacred tree of life, then he would need a 1,000-year-old plant. 1,000-year-old plants were exceedingly rare in this area. At most 100-year-old plants would appear. He'd never heard of a 500-year-old plant. Therefore, this was Yi Xian's chance. If he could obtain a rainbow fruit, he could exchange it for the sacred tree of life bloodline, even if it was just a core. At that time, he'd be an unkillable cockroach. Of course, his goal this time was the rainbow fruit. If he could obtain a rainbow fruit, he would be able to break through to 60 dragon strength. At that time, when he used Beast King's Rampage, his strength would suddenly increase to 18 dragon strength. Adding on the 20% increase in movement speed, his strength would reach a terrifying level. If there really was a rainbow fruit, he had to obtain it. There was still half a month before the gathering time, but the gathering place was very far away. Therefore, he didn't delay and immediately had Wei Zhentian take him to the designated location. This flight lasted for half a month. The place where the Silver Moon Clan, Water Moon Clan, and Broken Moon Clan were at was too remote. The strongest person there only had 30 dragons of strength. Almost all the clans in this area have over 30 dragons of strength, and the strongest is 60 dragons of strength. How terrifying! Yi Xian had seen many things while he was traveling, such as killing people and stealing treasures. He'd even seen battles of 40 dragons of strength. At this time, he had already arrived at the designated location. Looking at the large group of people below him, his expression froze. There are quite a few clans in this area. There are 10 of them wearing the same uniform. Adding on the family clans and the scattered cultivators, there are over 500 people. Chapter 370. Invitation. Yi Xian could guess from the strength of the people in this area that every one of them had at least 30 dragons of strength. Those sects had probably sent experts with 40 dragons of strength, while the leaders were likely to have more than 50 dragons of strength. The Rainbow Treasured Tree's influence was indeed great. So many experts had come. It seems that even if I don't get the rainbow fruit this time, just these people alone will be enough for me to break through many times. Yi Xian thought to himself as he circled around and landed. Although it was broad daylight, Megatron's color was very bright. Coupled with the height, no one noticed him. What he needed to do now was to keep a low profile as possible. He could not attract the attention of any sect or faction, or else he might be killed by some expert. Thus, he had to pretend to be an expert. Immediately, he took out the smiling face mask from that day, changed into a set of hemp clothes, and walked over. Hey! Another unaffiliated person has come. He looks very powerful. Maybe he has reached 40 dragons of strength. That's good. The stronger we unaffiliated people are, the more those sects and clans will fear us. If we band together, even those sects will have to stand aside. Come, let's go check it out. Yi Xian had just arrived, but he had already attracted many people's attention. People like him who came alone were usually experts. Sir, are you alone? Suddenly, a deep voice entered Yi Xian's ears. Yi Xian turned around and saw 7 people walking towards him. What's the matter? Yi Xian put on an arrogant expression. Sir, you must be here for the rainbow fruit. But as you can see, most of the people here have their own groups. If you are alone, I'm afraid you won't be able to compete with them. Why don't you join us? The leader of the group said. Join you? Yi Xian narrowed his eyes under the mask and asked, what are your strengths? Under such circumstances, most people wouldn't test the strength of others, because if one's strength was exposed, it would attract the attention of experts. When the leader heard this, he was stunned. He did want to invite Yi Xian into the team, but he didn't know how strong Yi Xian was. After thinking for a moment, he replied, I have the strength of 33 dragons. Of course, Yi Xian wouldn't believe a single sentence. However, as soon as the leader finished speaking, a flying dragon appeared around him. It was indeed the power of 35 dragons. This was something that could not be concealed. Where are they? Yi Xian turned his head and looked at the 6 people behind the man. Under the man's instructions, these people also revealed their respective realms. They were all between the 30th and 35th dragons. This was a team formed by freelancers, and their strength was not bad. If these people worked together, they might be able to fight against an expert with 40 dragon power. The reason why this group of people revealed their strength was because there was an invisible restraining force here. If someone destroyed this team, they would become prey in the eyes of stronger experts, and then be killed. Therefore, battles rarely broke out here. Every person and every force was careful, afraid that they would be targeted by stronger experts. As for the large sects, they had the strength to massacre the other forces, but they did not do so. After all, they might encounter danger later, and they needed some cannon fodder. Now that the 7 people had revealed their strength, the leader asked again, Sir, what about you? Yi Xian paused inwardly. He didn't really want to join. Moreover, he only had the strength of 28 dragons, so he might not be qualified to join. Sorry, I only have the strength of 28 dragons. Yi Xian shook his head. 2 large flying dragons and 8 smaller flying dragons appeared around him. What? When the 7 people heard this, they were stunned. They didn't expect that they would be wrong. Yi Xian's strength was beyond their expectations. He didn't even have the strength of 30 dragons. In an instant, the 7 of them had strange expressions on their faces. Their eyes were filled with disdain. What a joke! You dare to come here with only 28 dragons? You must be tired of living. A small-eyed man jumped out and pointed his sword at Yi Xian. Brat, hand over your interspatial ring, and we'll spare your life. When the leader and the other 5 heard this, they shook their heads helplessly. They disdained to attack Yi Xian, so they could only turn around and leave. After all, they didn't know each other. It was just a temporary team. No one in the team had the authority to control the small-eyed man's actions. You want my interspatial ring? Yi Xian narrowed his eyes and looked at the small-eyed man. That's right. Sir, I'm in a good mood today, so I don't want to kill you. Quickly take off your interspatial ring and give it to me. Otherwise, this day next year will be the anniversary of your death. The small-eyed man shouted coldly. He had revealed his strength just now. He was the weakest among the 7, with only 30 dragons of strength. Therefore, he was digging his own grave. What if I don't give it to you? Yi Xian took out his Bahuang sword and waited for his opponent's response. If you don't give it to me, then you can go to hell. The small-eyed man suddenly released a surge of vital energy and charged toward Yi Xian. However, to everyone's surprise, the one who died was not Yi Xian, but the small-eyed man. Rip! A series of crisp sounds rang out. The small-eyed man's head was thrown up, and blood splattered everywhere. At the same time, his interspatial ring fell into Yi Xian's hands. Pauper! Yi Xian cursed in his heart. He didn't expect the small-eyed man to be so poor. He didn't even have 1/10 of the wealth of the Silver Moon sect leader. However, it wasn't surprising. After all, he couldn't possibly carry everything with him. He didn't want others to take advantage of him when he died. At this time, the 6 people turned around and saw the small-eyed man's corpse. How is this possible? He was killed by 2 dragons? I remember that his movement technique was at least 60%. He's quite strong. How could he be killed in 1 hit? Looks like this masked man is quite capable. A few of them were discussing in private. However, the leader's expression was very unpleasant. He was the founder of this team. How could he not take revenge when he saw his own team member killed? You killed him? The leader asked. He can kill me, but I can't kill him? Yi Xian retorted. The leader narrowed his eyes and said coldly, although that's what you say, he's still my companion. Since you killed him, I naturally have to avenge him. Yi Xian didn't say anything. The leader had 35 dragons of strength, which was quite strong. However, right after he said those words, a person walked out from the crowd. Leader, let me do it. Chapter 371. The main character appears. All right. The leader nodded. He knew that there would not be much to gain. As the leader of the team, he naturally had to give his team members some benefits. That way, the team would not fall apart so easily. The long-haired man did not waste any more time. He immediately rushed towards Yi Xian. 32 dragon strength. He was 4 dragons taller than Yi Xian. Even the elites of the large sects had to be careful when facing the difference of 4 dragons. However, this long-haired man with 32 dragons could not even withstand 1 move from Yi Xian. Although Yi Xian only had 28 dragons, his heaven-shattering body technique had reached 60% mastery. In addition to the 20% increase in movement speed, his speed was 30% faster than the long-haired man's. 30% of his speed was enough to kill his opponent instantly. Another head flew up and rolled into the leader's hand. Yi Xian had already taken the dead man's interspatial ring. There are quite a lot of things. Yi Xian unceremoniously devoured the items in the interspatial ring. His strength had improved significantly. At this moment, he was almost 29 dragons. Seeing Yi Xian's nonchalant attitude, the leader's eyes flickered. I never thought that I would be wrong twice in a row. Now, I'll give you a chance. Join us, and I'll let bygones be bygones. Join you? I'm afraid you're not qualified. Yi Xian shook his head and gripped the Bahuang sword tightly. At the same time, he glanced around. There seemed to be quite a few people around them who had noticed this. If that's the case, then you can go accompany them. The leader shouted angrily. He took out a large saber and charged towards Yi Xian. 35 dragon strength. 28 dragon strength. There was a difference of 7 dragons between these 2 realms. Even the elites of the large sects in this area would not be able to overcome such a huge gap. The surrounding people were also guessing in their hearts. Which faction did Yi Xian belong to? How could he be able to challenge someone of a higher realm? Some people even wondered if Yi Xian would kill this expert with 35 dragons of strength. However, most people believed that Yi Xian would not be able to withstand a single blow from his opponent. Clang! The leader slashed down with his saber, but Yi Xian blocked it with his Bahuang sword. How is this possible? The man in the lead felt that it was inconceivable. At this moment, he suddenly noticed something. There were actually more flying dragons circling around Yi Xian's body. 28 dragons. 2 big ones and 8 small ones. But now, there were only 10 of them. 3 big ones and 7 small ones. 37 dragons strength. Taller than him. In an instant, The leader was enlightened. Yi Xian must have used a martial art that increased his realm. However, this kind of martial arts could only increase 1 or 2 dragons. It was very rare to increase 3 dragons. As for increasing the strength of 9 dragons, it was unheard of. *T. I forgot about this completely. Forget it, before the time is up, I should increase my strength to protect myself. Yi Xian's face darkened. He sent the saber flying with a swing of his sword. Immediately after, his figure flashed, and a head fell to the ground. Instant kill. After using Beast King's Rampage, his strength increased by 9 dragons, reaching 37 dragon strength. In addition to the 20% increase in movement speed, even if he did not use a martial art, he was comparable to a warrior with 45 dragons. Instant killing of 35 dragons was a piece of cake. After killing the leader, Yi Xian quickly put away the universe ring and devoured it. Ding! The host has broken through to 29 dragon strength. The notification sounded, and the number of flying dragons around Yi Xian increased by another dragon. 38 dragons. Everyone was dumbfounded. This kind of situation had already surpassed their understanding. Suddenly, 9 dragons appeared. After killing people, he even broke through in battle and increased by another dragon. This was too heaven-defying. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Yi Xian quickly swept out. In less than 2 seconds, the remaining 4 people in the team were all killed by him. Ding! The host has broken through to 30 dragon strength. Another notification sounded. Soon after, another flying dragon appeared. 39 dragons. *T. The sacred beast corpses are only enough for 1 more Beast King's Rampage. Yi Xian was helpless. These people did not have many sacred beast corpses in their universe rings. Including his own, it was only enough for 1 more Beast King's Rampage. Therefore, he could not waste this opportunity. Let's go! After killing 7 people in a row, Yi Xian turned and fled. He wanted to give the others a false impression that his Beast King's Rampage had side effects. Sure enough, after he left, many people immediately followed him. There were more than 30 of them. These people were all above 30 dragons. Among them, there was even an expert with 40 dragons leading the experts from his family. This group of people followed Yi Xian, which attracted the attention of the major forces. However, they did not care. After all, there were hundreds of people here. Those with less than 40 dragons were cannon fodder. More than 30 cannon fodder were nothing. However, what surprised them was that this group of people left for a long time, but not a single one of them returned. Not a single one. At the same time, there was one more person in the crowd. It was Yi Xian, who showed his true appearance. The 30 people who were chasing him just now were all killed by him. Not a single one was left. Even the expert with 40 dragon strength was the same. He also gained a lot, which allowed him to break through to 33 dragon strength. At this time, he was not afraid of anyone except for the few major forces led by 50 dragon strength experts. However, there was still a problem that troubled him. What a tragedy! The sacred beast corpses are only enough for 1 more Beast King's Rampage. He shook his head helplessly. At this moment, everyone! Suddenly, a figure descended from the sky. It was a white crane, and on the back of this white crane stood a masked man in white. Who? The hundreds of experts below all lifted their heads, their faces blank. Everyone, I am the one who sent out those beast skin maps. The mysterious man in white robes called out. Hearing those words, the crowd was stunned. Had the main character finally appeared? Just as the beast skin map said, I've discovered another site of the precious tree sect from 1,000 years ago. However, because my strength is insufficient, I've summoned everyone to explore it together. The mysterious man in white robes paused after speaking, then continued, All right, I'll cut to the chase and cut to the chase. I don't know if everyone is aware, but the land you're standing on was actually a dangerous place called Black Wind Cliff 1,000 years ago. The other location of the precious tree sect's cultivation is within Black Wind Cliff. In other words, it's right below your feet. After hearing the white-clothed mysterious man's words, everyone present was shocked. So they were right above the site. What kind of place is Black Wind Cliff? Chapter 372. Going underground, Black Wind Cliff was a very dangerous place 1,000 years ago. There were many flying sacred beasts there, including a heavenly thunder condor with 60 dragon strength. The precious tree sect discovered that the soil here was suitable for planting, so they opened up a cave and started planting. The mysterious man in white explained. Then how do you know about this? Have you seen the rainbow treasured tree? Someone raised his head and asked loudly. I don't need to tell you this, but you can start digging now. You'll know once you dig 500 meters down. 1,000 meters is a piece of cake for you. The mysterious man in white replied. 1,000 meters down? It was indeed a piece of cake for the people present. Some people immediately started digging with their bare hands. With 30 dragon strength, their skin was harder than steel. Digging a little bit of ground was a piece of cake. As for the soil they produced, they could store it in their storage rings. Many people believed the mysterious man in white's words and started to divide the area, then started digging. Yi Xian also ran far away to ensure that there was no one around before he started drilling. After digging for about 10 meters, he summoned Wei Zhentian. Little Tian, give me an excavator. No, give me a drill. Yi Xian ordered in his heart. Wei Zhentian had signed a slave contract with him. That was why Wei Zhentian was able to conjure up a fort. It was a transformer, and drilling 1,000 meters was a piece of cake for it. Yi Xian could have done it himself, but he needed to pay attention to whether anyone would ambush him, so he let Wei Zhentian do it for him. The distance of 500 meters was quickly covered. When Yi Xian received the message from Wei Zhentian in his heart, he drilled down again. He continued to dive, passing through a strange formation and arriving at a large cave. 1,000 meters underground was originally a very dark place, but when Yi Xian went down, he saw a vast expanse of white light. The treasure-hunting deer bloodline in his body began to boil at this moment. This cave was actually filled with heavenly treasures. The light emitted by these heavenly treasures almost blinded Yi Xian's eyes. Damn, it's actually real. Yi Xian was shocked. He immediately began to absorb these heavenly treasures into his devouring space. Just the amount of treasures he collected was enough to buy a sky-rank martial art. This cave was very large and crisscrossed, reminding Yi Xian of the deep-sea underground palace. Yi Xian immediately began to gather the treasures. Even if he didn't have the treasure-hunting deer bloodline, he could quickly gather these heavenly treasures because there were just too many of them. Treasure land. Treasure land indeed. However, when he began to collect the natural treasures, bursts of rumbling sounds came from within the mountain cave. It seemed that someone had encountered each other and started fighting. This plantation garden is supported by formations, but it's best to be careful in case it collapses. Yi Xian reminded himself in his heart. Although the 1,000-meter-tall soil couldn't kill him, it was still extremely painful. It would hurt a little, but it would be troublesome if it drowned these heavenly treasures. He began to gather the heavenly treasures quickly. In less than a minute, he had collected more than the 7-man team he had just killed. He had not come to the wrong place. What a rare opportunity. The caves were crisscrossed and the terrain was very complicated. There were even paths leading downwards. Yi Xian gathered everything he saw along the way. Someone's here? A figure appeared in Yi Xian's sensing range. Independent martial artists like this who acted alone were generally not very strong. If he had encountered them before, he might have been afraid of them. But now, he was not afraid at all. He rushed towards that person. A kid who's lost contact with his family? Dang. The person who collided with Yi Xian was a martial artist with 35 dragons of power. However, he was beheaded by Yi Xian in just one move. A mere 35 dragons of power dares to show off in front of me? Yi Xian put away his corpse and universe ring. There were not many things in this person's universe ring, but it was better than nothing. He continued to gather. He did see quite a few lone martial artists along the way. They were all around 35 dragons of power and weren't very strong. At most, he'd only met 3 people. A team of 10? Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. Within his range of perception there was a team of 10 people. He didn't know if they were disciples of a sect or some family. Of course, it could also be a team formed by a rogue martial artist. After some thought, he decided to give up. If he met a 40 dragons of power cultivator, he would have to use Beast King's Rampage, although he could kill them in his current state. He could only use it once more. If he wasted it here, what would he use to compete with those sects when he encountered the rainbow fruit later? In order to not lose the big picture, he decided to give up on it. The second plantation of the precious tree sect was simply too tempting. All 4 walls were covered in heavenly treasures, making Yi Xian very happy to harvest them. However, these plants didn't have strong life force, so they would only live for 100 years at most. They would wither after that. However, Yi Xian wasn't disappointed. The qi of heaven and earth in this cultivation dwelling is no less than that on land. It looks like there is indeed a plant with strong life force absorbing the nutrients in the ground to sustain the survival of so many heavenly treasures. Yi Xian's speed increased as he thought. This was because there might be a rainbow treasure tree in this cultivation dwelling that could create countless experts of 60 dragons of strength. As he collected, he devoured at the same time. Unknowingly, his cultivation had improved by another step, reaching 34 dragons of power. He didn't relax as he continued to gather heavenly treasures and make trouble for lone martial artists. Only in this way would he have the right to face the various sects in the end. Time passed bit by bit. At this point, half an hour had passed since Yi Xian had entered the ground. In this half an hour, his realm had increased once again, reaching 35 dragon strength. If he used Beast King's Rampage, he could reach 45 dragon strength. Then, with the addition of 20% of dexterity, his speed would be equivalent to 55 dragon strength. However, this wasn't enough. After all, the movement techniques of those experts had likely reached an extremely profound level. At this moment, Yi Xian found another tunnel that led to the bottom. This was his 6th time going down. He estimated that he was already around 1,500 meters underground. It was at this moment. His brow suddenly furrowed as he saw a purplish-black fog appear in front of him. Chapter 373. The Hunted Woman. Sure enough, this kind of plantation is dangerous. Yi Xian's heart trembled. Then, he suddenly thought of a problem. Why didn't the mysterious man in white who distributed the animal skin map collect these heaven and earth treasures first? Could it be that he didn't care for these things? Impossible. Because if all of these heavenly materials and earthly treasures were added together, it would be an astronomical figure. There was something fishy going on. Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. Then, he took out a worthless heaven and earth treasure from the devouring space and threw it over. This heaven and earth treasure withered in less than a second after being thrown into the poisonous fog. It is indeed a poisonous mist. I wonder if my myriad flower bloodline can withstand it. Yi Xian thought for a moment, then took out the body of one of the people he had just killed and threw it over. Although this was very inhumane, this was the only way to deal with the situation. This corpse was a martial artist with 30 dragon strength when he was alive. He had a strong physique and was naturally resistant to poison. 3 minutes later, the corpse began to bleed from his 7 orifices. His skin began to fester and turn into a puddle of blood. It took him about 5 minutes to turn into a pool of blood. How terrifying. Even the bones have melted. Yi Xian's heart trembled as he swallowed his saliva. That said, his constitution was stronger than the corpse's, and he had true energy to defend himself. He also had the myriad flowers bloodline, so he should be able to last 2 or 3 times as long. However, this was not enough. He had obtained quite a number of precious antidotes from the people he had killed. To be safe, he had also exchanged for a poison avoidance pearl from the devouring space. It was a pity that he didn't have any heaven-grade treasures. He also needed to refine a heaven-grade detoxification pill. He didn't have the required materials. Therefore, they could only go down and take a look. The stronger one was, the more one feared death. Right now, Yi Xian was still very cautious. He first entered the poisonous fog and stayed in it for a while to observe the situation. Zhenqi can't completely resist the poisonous fog. Forget it, I'll just expose myself to the poisonous fog and see what happens. Yi Xian withdrew his Zhenqi. Soon after, he heard the system notification. Ding! The host has been poisoned. Beginning detoxification. Hearing this, Yi Xian's eyes lit up. The 10,000 flower bloodline was effective. However, this unknown poisonous fog was too high level, and the 10,000 flower bloodline's detoxification effect was very slow. However, Yi Xian was not in a hurry. He let the others go down first to explore the path. Although they would be the first to take the item, it would be safer. Entering this kind of place, it wasn't about who could walk faster, but who was stronger and who could come out alive. 20 minutes later, the 10,000 flower bloodline was finally detoxified. The successful detoxification meant that Yi Xian was immune to the poison. His blood was the antidote. All right, I'm not afraid of this poisonous fog now. Yi Xian thought to himself and then began to walk down. During this period of time, he also heard a lot of movements, both big and small, coming from below. It seemed that those powers had begun to fight. I wonder who will be able to last until the end? As Yi Xian walked down, he also came across a lot of heaven and earth treasures. However, these heaven and earth treasures were all poisonous. Some poisonous things were highly toxic when swallowed, and some would be poisoned when touched. To be safe, Yi Xian did not pick them. After all, his support bloodline was only at the high level. He walked for about 50 meters and came to a large open space about the size of a basketball court. However, as soon as he arrived, a series of hurried footsteps entered his ears. It came from another passage. 8 people. Yi Xian frowned and hid in a corner. This level was filled with poisonous fog. The heaven and earth treasures were also of the dark type, so it was a little dark. Coincidentally, he could use the shadow leopard bloodline to hide. Ta-ta-ta. The sound of footsteps approached quickly. Soon, a figure rushed out from another passage. It was a woman. Then, another 7 people came out. "Monsieur, stop running." A deep voice was heard. It was the bald man who was the leader of the 7 people. At this moment, the woman in front suddenly stopped and turned around. Then a weak female voice was heard. "What do you want?" "Monsieur, your question is, we've killed your Xie family members. If you successfully escape, you'll definitely find trouble with us. So, we can only shut you up forever." The bald man's voice was heard again. "You're no match for me," the woman said coldly. The bald man smiled and shook his head. "Monsieur, you still don't understand the situation. Even if the 7 of us work together, we're no match for you. However, we can stop you from taking the antidote. As long as you're poisoned, your combat power will be greatly reduced. Then, it'll be easy for us to kill you." "Then you can try," the woman said in a low voice. Suddenly, she took out an antidote from her interspatial ring and was about to put it into her mouth. However, at this moment, more than 10 attacks suddenly appeared, forcing her to stop her movements. She did not even have time to take the antidote. It was obvious how fierce the 7 people's attacks were. In an instant, the woman and the 7 people were fighting. Meanwhile, Yi Xian, who was hiding in the corner, witnessed this battle. She looks about 20 years old, but she actually has 40 dragons of power. Looks like she's a disciple of some large faction. Yi Xian saw the woman's realm at a glance. As for the other 7 people, their strength was between 36 and 38 dragons. Although their realms were not as high as the woman's, they were very experienced. Moreover, they had the advantage in numbers, so the woman could not fight back at all. The woman retreated as she fought. She really wanted to take an antidote, but because of the restrictions of these people, she could not do so. She was very regretful. Why did she not take one when she was running away? Only now did she remember. She was still too inexperienced. The 2 sides fought, and the light from their swords illuminated the entire cave. Fortunately, Yi Xian was in the corner, or else he would have been exposed. At this moment, the woman's blood and qi suddenly surged, and she could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. This flaw was caught by the 7 people, and they immediately attacked with all their strength. Bang! The woman was a little slower to block, and a sword ray pierced her shoulder, sending her flying. It seemed that she had been poisoned. "Monsieur, give up. Don't worry, I'll give you a quick death." The bald man slowly walked forward. "Humph." The woman snorted coldly. She quickly thought in her mind to see if there was a way out. While she was thinking, the bald man suddenly attacked, and an extremely sharp slash swept towards the woman. Bang! The woman easily blocked it. "Monsieur, are you still not giving up? Fine, let's attack together and kill her," the bold man ordered. Chapter 374. Xie family bam, bam, bam. Although the woman had been poisoned, she could still hold on for a while. However, her expression darkened. She could hold on for a while, but the poison was quickly invading her body. How long could she hold on? Bam, bam, bam. The woman continued to block and retreat. She saw that there was a path leading to the top. As long as she could get to the top, she might be able to survive. However, her actions made the poison invade her body even faster. The woman could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Her ears were already bleeding, and her skin was turning purplish black. She can't hold on for much longer. Attack with all your might. The bald man shouted. Bam! 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 Loud noises echoed in the cave. Fortunately, there was a formation supporting the cave. Otherwise it might really collapse. The shock waves from the collision of true energy illuminated the surroundings. The bald man and the others knew that she was trying to escape, so they chased her to another place. At this moment, the woman was almost forced into a corner. She was at the end of her rope. In a few more seconds, she might not even be able to stand properly. However, at this moment, the shock waves from the collision of true energy illuminated the corner. The bald man's eyes narrowed, and his entire body trembled. He saw that there was actually a person standing in the corner. He was so scared that he had goosebumps. There was actually a person standing in the corner with a cold expression like a ghost, and he did not notice it. There's someone. One of the people behind the bald man also noticed it. What? The other 5 people were stunned. One of them swept a ray of sword light towards the corner. Bam! The ray of sword light was defeated. Immediately after, Yi Xian, who had been hiding for a long time, walked out from the corner. The 7 people stopped attacking and looked at Yi Xian in shock. This corner was not connected to any passageway. In other words, Yi Xian had been hiding here for a long time. Heavens! There was a person hiding in the corner, and they did not notice it. Was this person a ghost? The 7 people had goosebumps all over their bodies. Suddenly, shill! Several rays of cold light swept out from the corner. The speed was beyond their reaction time. Rip! 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 A few crisp sounds rang out. Then, the bald man saw the heads of his brothers fall to the ground. In the blink of an eye, 4 people had died. Not good. When the bald man heard the whistling sounds, he hurriedly raised his hand to block. However, in the next moment, his eyes widened. This was because in front of him, there was actually a figure that was very close. Hiss! Another crisp sound rang out. The bald man lowered his head and found that a long sword had pierced through his chest. His heart had already been pierced through. As he fell backwards, he saw the heads of his last 2 brothers slowly falling to the ground. Plop! 7 people. 7 corpses. Yi Xian took advantage of the dark environment to kill 7 people effortlessly. However, after the 7 corpses fell to the ground, a muffled sound came from behind Yi Xian. He turned his head in surprise and found that the woman had also collapsed. Is the poison too deep? Yi Xian muttered. He walked over and collected her interspatial ring and weapon. Now he had 2 choices. 1. Watch the woman turn into a pool of blood. 2. Save her. After thinking for a while, Yi Xian still felt that he should save her. This was because he found the woman pleasing to the eye. She also had a peerless appearance. He did not want such a beauty to die. Forget it. I'll be the good guy this time. Yi Xian cut his wrist. In an instant, blood gushed out. He dripped his blood into the woman's mouth. Now, he was immune to the poisonous fog. His blood was the best antidote. A second later, his wrist was restored. At the same time, the woman's eyes trembled. Then she opened her eyes. The poison in your body has been temporarily removed. Follow this path and your life will not be in danger. Yi Xian turned around and showed the woman his handsome back. He slowly walked over to collect the 7 corpses and their belongings. My interspatial ring. When the woman woke up, she found that the 2 interspatial rings on her left and right hands were gone. She immediately murmured, I saved your life. It's not too much to ask for a reward. You can go now. Yi Xian said. He cleaned up the battlefield and left. His blood was very effective in detoxifying the poison. After the woman drank it, the poison in her body was removed in the blink of an eye. She frowned as she got up. After thinking for a while, she followed him. Tiskese, I've made a fortune again. After leaving, Yi Xian laughed in his heart. Ding! The host has broken through to 37 dragons of power. This time, he had improved by another 2 dragons of power. How satisfying. At this moment, Yi Xian, who was wandering around, suddenly frowned. He turned around and shouted into the dark tunnel. "Why are you following me?" As expected, as soon as he finished speaking, a figure walked out from the shadows. "You took my interspatial ring." The person who followed him was, of course, Miss Xie, who was saved by Yi Xian. "Don't tell me you think that your interspatial ring is more valuable than your life? Turn around now and go back up. It's not too late." Yi Xian kindly reminded her. "There's something very important in the interspatial ring." Miss Xie replied. "Something very important?" Yi Xian sank his consciousness into the devouring space and poured the useless items back into the woman's interspatial ring. He said, "I've taken all the valuable items. I'll return these to you. There's an antidote and a weapon inside." After tossing the interspatial ring to the woman, he left again. The woman took the interspatial ring. She was shocked. After thinking for a while, she decided to follow him again. "I've returned the items to you. Why are you still following me? Do you really think that I won't dare to kill you?" Yi Xian sensed that the person behind him was following him again. He immediately turned around and shouted angrily. The woman paused again. Then she said, "I've been separated from my family." "If you've been separated, then go back up and wait," Yi Xian replied coldly. "No, their antidotes are all with me. Without them, they won't be able to hold on for long. If you lead me to them, I'll give you a reward." The woman shook her head. "Won't they look for you when they've run out of antidotes? Besides, you're not dead. Can't you look for them yourself?" Yi Xian asked again. "There aren't many treasures in the poisonous fog. If I go back, I'll waste a lot of time. I need to go down to the 3rd floor immediately to compete with the other factions for the rainbow fruit." The woman hesitated for a moment before replying. "The 3rd floor. The rainbow fruit." Yi Xian narrowed his eyes when he heard this. Chapter 375. Sneak attack. "I can help you find them, but the price won't be low." Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. "How many do you want?" The woman asked. "I want sacred beast corpses. 100 sacred beast corpses with 50 dragon power. Of course, the higher the realm, the smaller the amount." Yi Xian directly stated the price. Sacred beast corpses? This request was difficult for the woman, but it also shocked her. Why would he want sacred beast corpses? 100 sacred beast corpses with 50 dragon power, perhaps no one had them, but there might be corpses with 50 dragon power and above. "My father has some 50 dragon corpses. What do you want them for?" The woman asked curiously. "As long as you have them, it's fine. As for why I want them, there's no need for me to tell you. In addition, I have another condition. Tell me what's on the 3rd floor." Yi Xian said coldly. The woman paused, then said, "There's no harm in telling you. Long before we came, we received news that the rainbow treasured tree is on the 3rd floor of this plantation. Moreover, there are many dangers along the way. Even experts with 50 dragon power can fall. Since you know, why don't you prepare more antidotes?" Yi Xian asked in surprise. "That mysterious person didn't tell us that the 2nd floor is a poisonous fog." The woman replied. "So he's using these people to open the way and weaken our strength." Yi Xian's heart sank. It seemed that mysterious person in white didn't have good intentions. Moreover, even experts with 50 dragon power could fall. This wasn't a normal level of danger. However, the more dangerous the place, the greater the rewards. "Tell me the situation of the experts of this trip." Yi Xian continued. "I am Xie family's Xie Hai's daughter, Xie Yu. My Xie family has 3 experts with 50 dragon power. In addition, there are 3 sects with 50 dragon power experts, adding up to 9 people." The woman replied. 3 people, adding up to 9 people, that was 12 experts with 50 dragon power. This trip was indeed unusual. "Your Xie family can actually contend with the sects?" Yi Xian said in surprise. "That's right. My Xie clan is the most powerful clan in this area. We are on par with the other 3 major sections." Xie Yu nodded. "If that's the case, how did you get separated from the others?" Someone else asked. Xie Yu replied, "When we came down, we met the firestorm way of the 3 great sects." Hearing this, Yi Xian also understood that it was the result of a fight between the 2 factions. "All right, I can escort you. As for whether or not we can find the Xie family, that will depend on luck. If you really find it, I hope you won't turn against me. Yi Xian's eyes flashed with killing intent. Although he saved Xie Yu, it didn't mean that he wouldn't kill a woman. The reason why he made this deal with Xie Yu was because he could only use Beast King's rampage once more. This time, he would need 100 holy beast corpses with 40 dragon strength. Next time, he might need 50 dragon strength, so he had to be prepared in advance. If he succeeded, then he would be able to use Beast King's rampage twice in this operation. This was very important. The reason why Xie Yu found Yi Xian was because she had met the experts of the Firestorm Way and fought them. After that, she encountered the 7 people. Her body was full of injuries, and she didn't have much qi in her body, so she wanted to find a bodyguard, just in case. Although she didn't know Yi Xian, he had saved her life. He didn't take advantage of her when she was in danger, so she found Yi Xian. After the two reached an agreement, they began to move quickly to find the whereabouts of the Xie family. What you gave me just now, was it your blood? While searching, Xie Yu couldn't help but ask. That's right. I am immune to poison. This poisonous fog has no effect on me. Yi Xian casually replied. Xie Yu suddenly realized why Yi Xian didn't take a single antidote along the way. So this was the reason. The second floor of the cave was filled with poisonous fog. If one didn't have enough high-level antidotes, they would probably die here. Moreover, the deeper they went, the more dangerous it was. By now, Yi Xian had already seen many poisonous creatures, such as poisonous scorpions, poisonous centipedes, and poisonous snakes. They were all hiding in dark corners, waiting for an opportunity to attack martial artists who passed by. If Xie Yu was allowed to go down alone, he would probably die halfway. However, Yi Xian had the ability to sense things. As long as it was a living thing, he could sense it even if it was motionless. After all, in addition to the supersonic bat bloodline, he also had the Beast King bloodline. Fortunately, the strength of these poisonous creatures was not bad. They were all above 30 dragons. Their saint beast souls were a large amount of experience for Yi Xian. Unfortunately, he didn't dare to test the poisonous plants on the way, so he could only pass by in a hurry. Yi Xian brought Xie Yu and walked all the way down. After about 2,000 meters, they finally heard a trace of movement. Although there were many sounds of fighting before, they were very far away. This time it was nearby. Wait! Xie Yu suddenly called out to Yi Xian from behind. What's wrong? Yi Xian asked curiously. These aren't people from my Xie family. They're from the Yang family under the Firestorm Way, Xie Yu explained. Oh! Yi Xian was a little surprised, but he didn't plan to go forward. He turned around and asked, How strong is the Yang family? The leader has 42 dragon strength. The rest are between 38 and 40 dragons, Xie Yu replied. But when we came down, there was only one path, and they blocked it. Do you want to wait for them to leave, or? Yi Xian tried to ask. Xie Yu hesitated. He guessed that the Xie family's team had already gone down. If they didn't hurry, the Xie family's lives would be in danger. If you help me stop the expert with 42 dragon strength, I can take care of the rest. Of course, if you want to wait, you can. Fengjing, your Xie family might encounter others along the way. When the time comes, you won't lack antidotes. Yi Xian decided to leave the choice to Xie Yu. Are you confident? Xie Yu asked softly. There's a total of 8 people down there. If it's a sneak attack, I'll only need 3 seconds to take care of the other 7, Yi Xian said slowly. Although he only had 37 dragon strength, if he didn't count his movement techniques, he could compete with a 45 dragon strength expert in speed. If he used Beast King Rampage, he could even fight a 55 dragon strength expert. Then I'll help you stop the leader. Xie Yu nodded. Then follow behind me. Don't make a sound. I'll sneak attack first. Yi Xian said as he continued to go deeper. They were only a few dozen meters away from the Yang family's team. As long as they were careful, they could succeed in a sneak attack. Chapter 376. Ambush Patriarch. The road ahead seems to be even more dangerous. Are we really going to continue? Nonsense, we've lost a few experts. How could we give up halfway? If we can obtain a 7-colored fruit, then our Yang family will be able to dominate the 4 great forces and become the ruler of this region. However, we don't have enough detoxification pills, and the poisonous fog ahead is even stronger. I'm afraid that the detoxification pills won't last until we find the rainbow fruit. The greater the risk, the greater the reward. If you're afraid of death, then go up yourself. In a wide open space, the 8 members of the Yang family sat in a corner to rest and heal. However, what they did not notice was that 8 sharp blades had quietly approached them. The 8 sharp blades moved slowly, not making the slightest sound. When they got close to the Yang family team, they suddenly exploded. "Be careful!" the patriarch of the Yang family shouted, but he was still a step too late. 4 heads flew into the air, including an expert with 40 dragon power. Yi Xian used his powerful senses to control the 8 blades to launch a sneak attack. He didn't expect things to be so easy. His various methods could be said to be perfect. Go! After the successful sneak attack, Yi Xian shouted coldly. Then, he and Xiaoyu rushed out of the tunnel and attacked the remaining 4 people. The patriarch of the Yang family slashed out a slash, but it was easily defeated by Xiaoyu. However, he also understood who the newcomer was. "Xiaoyu, it's you?" the Yang family patriarch exclaimed in shock. Xiaoyu did not waste words and directly charged over. Although there was a difference of 2 dragons, Xiaoyu came from one of the 4 major powers, the Xie family. It should not be a problem for him to hold back the expert with 42 dragons. As for the remaining 3, they would be left to Yi Xian. Yi Xian shot forward like an arrow, controlling the 8 sharp blades to attack while wielding a heaven artifact to attack madly. 1 second. It only took him a second to kill the remaining 3 people. Then, all 7 interspatial rings fell into his hands. Ding! Host has broken through to 38 dragons power. After hearing the system notification, Yi Xian's fighting spirit soared. He turned around and charged towards the Yang family head. Damn it! Don't even think about leaving this place alive. The patriarch of the Yang family was flustered and exasperated. Suddenly, a powerful true qi gushed out from his body. Burning your true qi? Xiaoyu was stunned. Burning true qi was a very common martial art. It was to temporarily increase one's strength at the cost of one's realm. As for the burned true qi, it would need to be cultivated again. If he was not careful, he could lose 5 or even 10 dragons of strength. The Yang family patriarch forcefully increased his strength from 42 dragons to 45 dragons, greatly increasing his strength. However, this was of no use. Xiaoyu has 40 dragon strength. Facing 45 dragons, she can't do anything. However, Yi Xian had already broken through to 38 dragons, and with the help of the mysterious 8 blades, he could fight his opponent even if he didn't use Beast King Rampage. Get out of the way, I'll deal with him. Yi Xian reminded and attacked with all his might. 38 dragons against 45 dragons. Even in the outside world, it was rare to see such a scene, because under normal circumstances, the former would be instantly killed. But now Xiaoyu saw it. So strong, challenging 7 dragons. Who is he? Xiaoyu couldn't help but be interested in Yi Xian's identity. Clang! 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 The sound of weapons clashing echoed between the stone walls. Yi Xian had the 8 Baron Wind-Killing Array in one hand and the Heavenly Wind Sword technique in the other. He was evenly matched with the patriarch of the Yang family. However, Yi Xian's speed of growth was beyond the expectations of the 2 people present. Ding! The proficiency of the Heaven Crippling Body technique has increased. Current proficiency is 70%. Although the Heaven Crippling Body technique was not like the Heavenly Wind Sword technique, which had the Sword Saint Bloodline's comprehension, Yi Xian's aptitude was not bad, and his cultivation speed was also extraordinary. His speed soared, bringing great pressure to the patriarch of the Yang family. How can this kid be so fast? This is impossible. The patriarch of the Yang family broke out in cold sweat. At this moment, he was making a decision in his heart. He was thinking as he dealt with Yi Xian's attacks. Finally, he made a decision. Run. Even after burning his vital energy, he could not do anything to Yi Xian. Now, he was at a disadvantage. If they continued fighting, he would be the one to die. Therefore, he could only run. Yi Xian understood the patriarch of the Yang family's intentions. He immediately controlled the 8 sharp blades to seal off the patriarch's path of retreat. 8 Baron Wind-Killing Array, first layer. Just now, the 8 sharp blades were used to stab, which was faster. To seal off the patriarch's path of retreat, it was better to use the first layer. The patriarch of the Yang family had been burning his vital energy for some time. Now that he could not retreat, he could only continue to block Yi Xian's attacks. Half a minute after they exchanged blows, an unforeseen event caused the patriarch of the Yang family to fall into an irrecoverable situation. One of his wyverns suddenly disappeared. 44 dragons of strength. Haha, you're finished. Yi Xian shot forward and increased his attacks. The patriarch of the Yang family's face was gloomy. With 45 dragons of strength, he could barely block Yi Xian's dual attacks. Now that he had fallen to 44 dragons of strength, he was not far from death. 3 seconds later, he finally could not block anymore. A sharp blade cut into his thigh. The wound was so deep that his bone could be seen, greatly reducing his speed. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Yi Xian did not hesitate to kill. Rip! A crisp sound entered Xie Yu's ears. Immediately after, she saw a head fly into the air. It was the patriarch of the Yang family. Plop! The head fell to the ground and rolled into a corner. He's finally dead. Yi Xian breathed a sigh of relief. Challenging 7 dragons seemed to be his limit. If he really encountered an expert with 45 dragons of strength, he would probably need to put in a lot of effort. Yi Xian walked over and put away the patriarch of the Yang family's belongings. As the patriarch of the Yang family, there were naturally good things in his universe ring. Moreover, this time, the Yang family's team had collected all the natural treasures and left them with him. This way, Yi Xian benefited from it. Ding! The host has broken through to 39 dragons of strength. Yi Xian had broken through again. You! Xie Yu said in surprise when she saw Yi Xian suddenly have another wyvern. Haven't you seen someone break through in the middle of a battle? Yi Xian casually replied. Xie Yu was speechless. She really had never seen a genius break through in the middle of a fierce battle. Alright, if these people can reach the 3rd floor, then your Xie family and the 3 major sects should have reached as well. Let's continue on our way. Yi Xian did not waste time and directly chose a passage to enter. Chapter 377. Rendezvous. At this rate, Xie Yu would only be able to stay on the 3rd level for a few hours at most. There were more than 10 people in the Xie family. If they didn't have enough antidotes, it was very likely that they would all be wiped out. Xie Yu couldn't help but quicken her steps when she thought of this. This time, they didn't run into anyone apart from the poisonous creatures. They soon reached a depth of 2,500 meters. The precious tree sex plantation was simply too large. From 1,000 to 2,500 meters underground, natural treasures could be seen everywhere. In addition, Yi Xian didn't know just how large the underground maze was. There were many forks in the paths, and it was easy to get lost inside. Thankfully, it was easy to find the way down, so Yi Xian didn't get lost here. It was no wonder that the precious tree sect had been destroyed. Even without the rainbow treasure tree, the natural treasures that had been planted in the precious tree sect were enough to drive a faction crazy. When Yi Xian and Xie Yu were 3,000 meters down, they finally heard the sounds of human conversation. They quickened their steps and walked out of the tunnel. The 3rd level was very large, stretching as far as the eye could see. At the same time, the ground here wasn't dirt, but a path made of countless vines. At this moment, there were already over 100 people gathered there. The line of sight on the 3rd level was still good, and Xie Yu immediately spotted her Xie family group. Father! Xie Yu jogged over. Yi Xian followed closely behind. When he heard Xie Yu's voice, Xie Hai also turned his head in surprise, saying with shock, It's good that you're all right. Father, here are the antidotes. Xie Yu hastily took out the antidotes. We've gotten quite a few along the way, so there's no rush. Xie Hai nodded and distributed the antidotes. Only after that did his gaze fall onto Yi Xian, who was following him. This is? Xie Hai asked in surprise. After we were separated, I ran into some trouble and almost lost my life. He saved me and I asked him to escort me down. Xie Yu explained. I see. Many thanks for saving my life, little brother. Xie Hai hastily cupped his fists. Yi Xian smiled and said, Senior, you're too polite. I was hired by Miss Xie. Father, don't you have a few holy beast corpses in your interspatial ring? Give them to him. Xie Yu remembered her promise and said immediately. This. Xie Hai was stunned. Although the holy beast's corpse couldn't compare to the holy beast's soul, It was still a corpse of more than 50 dragons. If it was cooked and eaten, it could increase one's strength by a lot. This could greatly increase the overall strength of the clan. At this time, a middle-aged man behind Xie Hai walked out and coldly shouted, "Brat, isn't your appetite too big?" Xie Yu hurriedly explained, "Third uncle, it's just a corpse. We don't want the holy beast's soul. Moreover, there are so many natural treasures here. What do they have to do with the saint beast's corpse?" The middle-aged man asked coldly. Xie Hai didn't want to say anything more on this topic. He directly handed over an interspatial ring and said, "All right, Yuer's life is more important. Little brother, there are 3 holy beast corpses with 55 dragon strength and 6 holy beast corpses with 51 to 53 dragon strength." Yi Xian's eyes lit up. He excitedly received the interspatial ring and thanked, "Thank you, senior." With these corpses, he could use Beast King's rampage again. This meant that he could use it twice. After fulfilling his promise, Xie Yu turned to look at the hundreds of people around and said, "Father, what are we doing here?" Xue Hai said, Wait for those who entered this poisonous fog to come back." Xie Yu and Yi Xian turned around and saw that the poisonous fog 100 meters in front of them was extremely dense. It was so dense that they could only see 10 meters in front of them. At this time, they were also in the poisonous fog. However, the poisonous fog 100 meters away was obviously more poisonous. Moreover, they didn't know what was in this poisonous fog, so it was very dangerous. "Why aren't we dispelling this poisonous fog?" Xie Yu asked in surprise. Xue Hai shook his head and said, "We can't. We tried to dispel this poisonous fog before, but in the next moment, more poisonous fog would surge out. Moreover, it would become denser and denser. If we continue to dispel it, I'm afraid we won't even have a place to stand." After hearing this, Xie Yu didn't say anything and quietly waited. As for Yi Xian, he also stood behind them and looked around at the same time. Other than the Xie family, the people from the other 2 great sects were also present. In addition, there were also many lower-ranked sects and families. There was even a group of scattered people. However, the Firestorm Way, which was one of the 4 great powers like the Xie family, was not present. Everyone waited for a while, but no one came out of the poisonous fog. Damn it, there really is danger in there. Even Xie Yang couldn't come out. Xie Hai gritted his teeth and said, Xie Yang was the expert that the Xie family had sent into the poisonous fog. He had 48 dragons of strength, and his movement technique was exceptional. He was the strongest person in the Xie family's team besides the 350 dragons experts. Even Uncle Xie Yang couldn't come out. Xie Yu frowned. She was already used to death. In order to survive in this world, it was impossible to not make some sacrifices. However, at this moment, the sound of footsteps suddenly came from the poisonous fog. Then, a figure rushed out. Someone came out. Immediately, the leaders of the various great powers rushed over. Xie Hai did the same. It's Xie Yang. Xie Hai opened his eyes wide and looked at the figure that rushed out of the poisonous fog. This person was Xie Yang of the Xie family. However, he was missing an arm and even his shoulder. The wound was still bleeding, and no one knew what had hurt him. Xie Yang, are you okay? Xie Hai rushed to Xie Yang's side. The leaders of the various great powers also approached, trying to hear some news. Master, there are a large number of wind mantises in this poisonous fog. Be careful. Xie Yang suddenly spat out a mouthful of purple blood halfway through his sentence. Then he fell down and died. This kind of news could only be told to Xie Hai, but he knew that he couldn't hold on any longer, so he didn't think too much about it. Xie Yang. Xie Hai opened his eyes wide and found that Xie Yang's wound had festered and turned black. It was obvious that he had died from poison. At the same time, when the people of the other great powers heard Xie Yang's words, they were also shocked. Wind mantises? They are the sacred beast wind mantises with 45 dragons of strength when they reach adulthood? Moreover, there are a large number of wind mantises. This Xie family expert should be able to resist this poisonous fog, but he was poisoned to death. These wind mantises must have mutated. There's poison on their blades. The people of the various great powers looked at each other. They didn't expect that this unfathomable poisonous fog would be so dangerous. Chapter 378. Joining hands among the major forces present, other than the Xie family, Only the other two major sects had 50 dragon power experts. As for the rest, they only had 40 dragon power experts. An adult wind mantis had 45 dragon power and was extremely fast. In this kind of situation, it could at least cause trouble for a 50 dragon power expert. Thus, many people hesitated. Xie Hai put away Xie Yang's corpse and returned to the Xie family's camp, saying, "We won't go in first, let's wait." Wait for what? Naturally, they would wait for the next expert to come out and see if there were any other dangers. However, they were disappointed. They waited for more than 10 minutes and did not see a second person come out. It seemed that all of them died inside. "Patriarch, what do we do now?" Someone in the Xie family team asked. Xie Hai hesitated. Should they go in or not? If they went in, they might be wiped out. If they did not go in, they would have died in vain. One had to know in order to come to the third layer several of them had died. Of course, if they gave up on the rainbow fruit and returned to the first layer to collect treasures, it was not a bad choice. However, eating a rainbow fruit that could allow one to break through to 60 dragon power was not a small temptation. "Father, what do we do?" Xie Yu looked at Xie Hai worriedly. Xie Hai was still deep in thought. At this time, from the corner of his eye, he saw someone leading a team into the poisonous fog. It's that group of independent cultivators. The strongest is only 45 dragon power. They're really courting death. If there's a crisis, this team will definitely fall apart. Xie Yu's third uncle said coldly. After this group of independent cultivators, the second group entered. The rainbow fruit's power was indeed not small. Then the third group and the fourth group. The last group was very smart, using the first few groups as cannon fodder and entered behind them. Soon, there were only 3 groups left. Xie family, Flying Cloud sect, and White Cloud Gate. Patriarch Xie, Gate Master Bai, what's your decision? Flying Cloud sect's Gate Master asked from afar. Why, Gate Master He, what's your opinion? White Cloud Gate's Gate Master narrowed his eyes. Flying Cloud sect's Gate Master said with a smile. How about this? The 3 of us temporarily join forces to break through this area. If we see a rainbow treasured tree, we'll divide it equally. How about it? Equal distribution? Hearing this, Xie Hai couldn't help but ask, Sect Master He, have you forgotten about the mysterious person who gave us the beast skin map? After being reminded like this, the Flying Cloud sect master's figure also trembled. He had forgotten about this. The mysterious man in white had told them the location of the precious tree sect's plantation. How could they not come in? I had people pay attention to that mysterious person. At that time, he also drilled into the ground very early, but I haven't seen him yet. Could it be that he has already entered? The Flying Cloud sect master frowned. Or perhaps, they are still behind us, or even hiding somewhere so that we can take the lead and eliminate the wind mantises inside. The White Cloud Gate sect master added. Xie Hai pondered for a moment and said, that person's strength is unfathomable. For the time being, let's classify him as someone with 50 dragons of strength. If the 3 of us join forces, we should be able to make him somewhat wary. So, Patriarch Xie agrees to the alliance? The Flying Cloud sect master asked. Xie Hai shook his head. If it's just to break through this level, joining forces isn't a problem. However, can you guarantee that there will be exactly 3, 6, or 9 rainbow fruits? This question also stumped the Flying Cloud sect master. The legendary rainbow treasured tree was very miraculous. It would bear 1 rainbow fruit every 10 years, but it couldn't bear fruit all the time. What if there were a total of 19 rainbow fruits? Who would the extra one go to? What if there were 16 or 20? How about this? We'll join forces first. If there are still fruits left after the 3 of us divide, we'll draw lots. It's only 1 or 2 anyways. If the rainbow treasured tree has truly lived for 1,000 years, there will be at least a few dozen fruits. It's absolutely enough to divide. The White Cloud Gate sect master said. All right. The Flying Cloud sect master nodded. If there were 30 fruits, each of them would get 10. It was better to be peaceful. If that mysterious person appears, we'll see how things go. The White Cloud Gate sect master added. The Flying Cloud sect master and Xie Hai both understood what he meant by seeing how things go. Seeing how things went was to see the other party's strength. If the mysterious person was weak, they would kill him. If he was stronger than them, they would divide the fruits among the 4 sides. Of course, if the mysterious person was much stronger than them, they could only die, and then the mysterious person would monopolize the rainbow fruits. After the 3 sides joined forces, they began to discuss the specific matters, such as how the 3 sides would stand and so on. Because it was Xie Yang who brought the news, the Flying Cloud sect and the White Cloud Gate let Xie Hai choose his position first. The first team didn't go far, so Xie Hai chose to be at the front, the Flying Cloud sect was at the back on the left, and the White Cloud Gate was at the back on the right. The 3 sides advanced in a triangle. With these 9 experts with 50 dragon power, it shouldn't be a problem. These more than 30 people were surrounded by the 9 experts in the center, and then entered the thick poisonous fog. As soon as they entered, their vision was immediately limited. They could only see things within 10 meters, so they could only rely on their strong perception. Yi Xian happened to be among them. The 2 sects thought that Yi Xian was a member of the Xie family, and the Xie family had no time to care about him. He mixed in with the 3 teams and followed Xie Yu closely. Although his vision was the same as others, he had the blood of the Beast King. He could feel that there were some creatures moving quickly 1,000 meters away. The 3-party team walked a few hundred meters forward. These few hundred meters could be finished in less than half a second, but it took them 3 minutes to walk. The 9 experts were also on high alert. Although the chilling wind mantis's realm was lower than theirs, this was not the land. If they were ambushed, even the experts with 50 dragons might die. They didn't dare to disperse the poisonous fog, because the more they dispersed, the denser the poisonous fog would be. Now they could see things 10 meters away. If they were courting death, they might not even be able to see things 3 meters away. Stop! Xie Hai, who was walking in the front, suddenly shouted, and everyone in the team stopped. Master Xie, what's the situation? Asked the master of the Flying Cloud sect. Xie Hai walked a few steps forward alone and responded, blood. The Xie family people followed and found that the vines in front of them were full of blood and some pieces of meat. Obviously, these were left by the people who just walked in front of them. Chapter 379. Wind Mantis. Everyone be careful. The Flying Cloud sect leader immediately shouted. The bloodstains here should be left by the people who walked in front of them. This meant that there might be Wind Mantis around. Xie Hai walked over, picked up a piece of clothing and said, "This is a piece of clothing from the Wang family." This sentence scared everyone. The Wang family? Their 3-party team was the last to enter, and they were following behind the second-to-last team. And this second-to-last team was the Wang family. It seems that they encountered the Wind Mantis. Before the Flying Cloud sect leader could finish his words, a burst of hurried footsteps came from the side. He was so scared that he hurriedly shouted, "Be careful, something is attacking." As soon as his voice fell, everyone also heard a burst of hurried footsteps. Immediately, the Flying Cloud sect leader launched an attack with the other 2 experts. Hiss! Hiss! In 2 muffled sounds, 2 giant dark green mantises as tall as a person fell in front of the Flying Cloud sect leader. Fortunately, it's just 2 45 dragon wind mantises. The Flying Cloud sect leader breathed a sigh of relief. He carefully put away the corpses. These wind mantises can travel freely in the poisonous fog. We are living targets. Moreover, this poisonous fog is very poisonous. We don't have many antidotes left. I suggest that we speed up. The White Cloud sect leader suggested. Okay, I agree. The Flying Cloud sect leader nodded. Xie Hai also felt that they could not delay any longer. The more they delayed, the more dangerous it would be. He also nodded. At that moment, they quickened their pace, but they did not dare to go too fast. This way, if anything happened, they could respond in time. Just 10 minutes after they entered the poisonous fog, wind mantises attacked again. However, they did not attack immediately. Instead, they slowly approached. A sacred beast with 50 dragon power was not lower than a human's intelligence. They deliberately moved lightly, and even Xie Hai and the others did not notice. However, Yi Xian sensed it. Something is approaching. It's only 1,000 meters away from us. Yi Xian, who was mixed in the Xie family team, suddenly reminded. What? His words made Xie Hai, who was walking in front, stop in his tracks. Kid, we let you stay here, but that doesn't mean you can talk nonsense. Xie Yu's third uncle said angrily. False information was very deadly. Yi Xian ignored him and continued. There are 6 wind mantises. They are only 700 meters away from us. Oh, 600 meters. His words made all the Xie family members widen their eyes in disbelief. Even Xie Hai of the 52 dragons did not notice it. So how did Yi Xian detect it? Could it be true? Little brother, are you sure? Xie Hai didn't ask how Yi Xian knew about this. He only wanted to know if the news was true. I'm sure. We're only 400 meters away. I think they'll make their move soon. Yi Xian nodded. Xie Hai raised his eyebrows and said in shock, "Be careful, the enemy is attacking." His words almost made the 2 teams behind him jump up in fright. Wind mantises again? The Flying Cloud Sect and White Cloud Sect leaders were shocked. They had just raised their vigilance when they noticed the wind mantises that suddenly came out of the poisonous fog. What fast speed! 50 dragon wind mantises. Their expressions immediately changed. This time, a 50 dragon sacred beast appeared directly. This was really dangerous. In an instant, the 6 wind mantises came out, and all of them had the strength of 50 dragons. Fortunately, these 6 wind mantises were evenly distributed, and each of the 3 forces encountered 2 of them. Xie Hai of the Xie family had the strength of 52 dragons, and the other 2 experts also had the strength of 50 dragons. Flying Cloud Sect's leader had the strength of 53 dragons, and the other 2 had the strength of 51 and 50 dragons. As for White Cloud Sect, their leader had the strength of 51 dragons, and the other 2 had the strength of 50 dragons. They were still able to handle the 250 dragon wind mantises. Apart from these 9 experts, the rest of the people did not move. This level of battle was no longer something they could interfere in. All they could do now was to stay vigilant in case more wind mantises came. This battle was without the slightest suspense. Whether it was the number of people or the realm, the human side was superior to the wind mantises. In less than 10 seconds, all 6 wind mantises were killed. Xie Hai put away the corpses of the 2 wind mantises and said, "These wind mantises are really full of poison. If they are cut, ordinary detoxification pills can't cure them. Fortunately, they only have the strength of 50 dragons." Xie Hai was very satisfied with the 2 souls of sacred beasts with the strength of 50 dragons. He turned to look at Yi Xian in the team and said, "Little brother, although I don't know how you found them, this time it's all thanks to you. These 2 wind mantises' corpses are yours as a reward." Yi Xian did not argue and directly accepted it. At this time, Flying Cloud Sect and White Cloud Sect had also been dealt with, but they did not know that it was Yi Xian's credit. "Little brother, if you find these wind mantises again, please be sure to tell me in time," Xie Hai said solemnly. Using some sacred beasts' corpses in exchange for such important information, this trade was naturally worth it. This time, if it was not for Yi Xian, the wind mantises would have killed their way into the crowd in an instant. At that time, the casualties would have been very heavy. These 6 wind mantises are slowly approaching and then preparing to launch a sneak attack. If they attacked at full speed, I'm afraid I wouldn't have time to tell them. Yi Xian shook his head. "It's okay, just do your best. The corpses are all yours," Xie Hai said. "I will." Yi Xian nodded. Although his physique was only 39 dragons, with the Beast King bloodline, he could sense the wind mantises faster than others. The stronger his strength, the stronger his senses. However, the wind mantises were extremely fast. If they exceeded his reaction time, he would not be able to inform Xie Hai. The team began to move forward again. However, before they could take 2 steps, danger struck again. This time, it was far more dangerous than the previous 2 times, because the wind mantises that attacked had 55 dragon strength. Although there were only 3 of them, the speed of their sneak attack was almost beyond Yi Xian's current reaction time. Yi Xian had just opened his mouth when the 3 wind mantises attacked. Moreover, they did not bother the 9 people and directly attacked the team. In an instant, the team was thrown up with countless broken limbs. They were still too slow. Yi Xian's eyes widened. This was not his fault. At this time, a 55 dragons wind mantis attacked the Xie family's team. There were only 15 people in the Xie family's team. After excluding the 3 masters Xie Hai, Yi Xian, and Xie Yu, there were only 10 people left. In the blink of an eye, the Xie family lost 5 masters with 40 dragons. Chapter 380. Sacred Tree of Life. At this moment, Yi Xian's eyes suddenly widened. He saw that the ill-wind mantises had turned to look at him. Not good. Yi Xian hurriedly unsheathed the Bahuang sword and formed a shield. Clang! As soon as the shield was formed, the ill-wind mantis's sharp scythes fell. Fortunately, the Bahuang sword was indestructible, so it blocked the attack. Xie Hai and the other two also reacted and immediately rushed forward. Yi Xian temporarily avoided the attack. Although the sacred beast of 55 dragons was stronger than Xie Hai by 3 dragons, but with the 3 of them working together, they could still fight it. They were afraid that there would be other ill-wind mantises attacking them. Just as the 9 of them were fighting against the 3 wind mantises, more wind mantises appeared. This time there were quite a few of them. There were more than 10 of them. Not good. There is a large group of ill-wind mantises coming. Yi Xian's face darkened. At this time, he had not seen the rainbow treasured tree. If he used Beast King Rampage, it would be a waste. However, if he did not use it, this team would be wiped out. Yi Xian was part of this team. Moreover, he might need more people later, so he had to leave some people behind. That's all we can do. Beast King Rampage kill. 39 dragons of power increased by 30%, instantly becoming 51 dragons of power. In addition to the 20% increase in movement speed, his speed had exceeded 60 dragons of power. The strongest person present only had 53 dragons of power, and Yi Xian's strength had already surpassed them. In an instant, he killed his way out. These dozen ill-wind mantises only had 40 dragons, so he could kill them in a second. He killed one, devoured one, and his strength soared. In less than 3 seconds, he annihilated a group of ill-wind mantises in front of him. Ding! The host has broken through to 40 dragons of power. Beast King Rampage had a duration. With the increase in level, Beast King Rampage would increase again. At this time, there are still wind mantises in the other directions. I'll go and kill those 355 dragons first, and leave the rest to them. As Yi Xian thought to himself, he took out a mask and put on a cloak before rushing back. He suddenly remembered that if he changed his identity and stole the kill, the other party would not dare to say anything. He rushed back at top speed, holding a heaven tool in his hand, and instantly killed the wind mantis that was besieged by the 3 masters of the Xie family. Then, he unceremoniously swallowed it. Ding! Host has broken through to 42 dragon power. A 55 dragon sacred beast soul allowed Yi Xian to increase his cultivation by 2 realms. What? Xie Hai and the other 2, who were besieging the wind mantis, were shocked to see their opponents suddenly die and disappear. The physique of the 3 of them was not weak. They could barely see the expert who had killed the wind mantis. Who is it? Xie Hai's eyes widened. It should be known that the 3 of them could only delay for the time being. It would take some time to kill the wind mantis. As for the flying dragons that circled around Yi Xian, there were actually a total of 55 dragons, surpassing everyone present. Could it be the mysterious man in white? After killing the wind mantis, Yi Xian did not stop. He immediately rushed out and killed the 2 from Flying Cloud Sect and White Cloud Gate. Ding! Host has broken through to 45 dragon power. At this time, the effect of Beast King Rampage had just passed. The sect master of Flying Cloud Sect and White Cloud Gate were also stunned. Where did this expert come from? He actually killed the wind mantis with 55 dragon power in 1 hit? There are still wind mantis. Don't be careless. Yi Xian disguised his voice, reminded them, and then killed again. At this time, the wind mantis had already killed in the team. The whole team was divided, and some of the weaker ones even turned around and ran back like scattered sand. I can't stay here anymore. It seems that I have to act on my own. Yi Xian muttered in his heart as he charged out once again. With his 45 dragons cultivation, including his movement bonus, he could reach 55 dragons. If he used his movement technique, it wouldn't be a problem for him to kill the 55 dragons wind mantis in an instant. He wanted to take this opportunity to greatly improve his strength. Or, he could go in alone and take a look. There were indeed a lot of wind mantis in this area. Yi Xian killed all the way and moved forward. However, just 2 minutes after he left the team and moved alone, he found some bloodstains and some broken limbs. Originally, this would not have attracted his attention, but he actually found a finger on the vine. A human finger wearing an interspatial ring. Most importantly, there were several wind mantis corpses. The team in front, even if they were attacked by the wind mantis, it's impossible that they did not collect the corpses, right? Yi Xian was very surprised. He put away the interspatial ring skeptically and found that there were still many heaven and earth treasures in it. Obviously, no one had touched them. Then, he put away the corpses and continued to move forward. He walked in a straight line for a while. As expected, he found some wind mantis corpses, but there were no human corpses. If those teams were attacked, they might have scattered. It's impossible that they did not find any human corpses. As expected, this sea of vines is not that simple. The corpses... Before Yi Xian could finish his thought, he felt a gust of wind. The wind did not come from all directions, but from under his feet. Oh no! Yi Xian's expression changed. He suddenly jumped up and slashed at the ground. Clang! The sword chi struck a hard object and instantly dissipated. Yi Xian focused his eyes. It was a vine that stretched out from the ground. It was as thick as a human thigh. It's just as I thought. He widened his eyes. Just now, he was wondering if those human corpses were dragged down and absorbed by these vines. Now, it seemed that was the case. Presumably, in addition to the sneak attacks of the chilling wind mantises, the teams that came in earlier were also attacked by these vines. Whoosh whoosh. The vine attacked again. Yi Xian's expression darkened. He slashed at it with the Bahuang sword. Clang! The Bahuang sword collided with the vine, making a metallic sound. Yi Xian now had 45 dragon power. He used the sky wind sword technique, but he was still unable to cut this vine. How was this possible? Suddenly, Yi Xian had an idea. He immediately condensed the dragon slaying sword. Dragon slaying sword. Dragon's judgment. Whoosh! A huge slash broke through the air and cut the vine. Then, Yi Xian took a big step forward and held the broken vine in his hand. Ding! The host has successfully fused with the bloodline of the sacred tree of life. Chapter 381. Tree Demon Ding. Assimilation of the sacred tree of life successful. When he heard the notification in his mind, 2 rays of light shot out from Yi Xian's eyes. As expected, this sea of vines was most likely created by the rainbow treasured tree. Only a 1,000-year-old plant could allow Yi Xian to exchange for the sacred tree of life bloodline. After assimilating with the bloodline, Yi Xian felt the true qi in his body quickly recover. In the blink of an eye, the true qi consumed by the dragon's judgment was replenished. What a powerful recovery ability! It's invincible! Yi Xian's eyes widened. The sacred tree of life was known for its recovery ability. Yi Xian reckoned that even if he cut off his arm, it would still regrow. But in the next moment, what he thought happened. The vine that he had cut off a section of actually grew a new branch right in front of him. Damn it, I can't fight like this. Retreat! Yi Xian hurriedly turned tail and ran. Since the other party could recover like him, he naturally couldn't fight to the death with the vine here. He had to find the main body first. At the same time, he understood the fate of the 3-way team. Total annihilation. Total annihilation. And even if he went back, he probably wouldn't be able to save them. After all, vines were constantly growing out of the ground and attacking him. From 1 to 2 vines, then to 3 and finally to 5 vines. The 5 vines were incredibly tough, and their speed surpassed the vines of the 55 dragon strength wind mantis. If it was a normal person, they would have been stabbed to death and dragged away. But this still couldn't kill Yi Xian. After assimilating with the sacred tree of life, Yi Xian's true qi recovery speed was really fast. Coupled with the fact that he was constantly circulating his cultivation technique, it was even faster than when he took pills. At this moment, he was like a perpetual motion machine. He dodged and cut down the vines blocking his way as he advanced. Along the way, he encountered many wind mantises, but they were all killed by him. When the notification sounded again, he had already broken through to 46 dragon strength. It's too scary. I ran at least 100,000 meters. According to the speed of the 3-way team, even if there were no vines, we would still die from the poison. Yi Xian felt very helpless. The speed of the 3 parties was just too slow. Something that could have been done in a few seconds had to be dragged on for several minutes. That said, they were acting cautiously. Unfortunately, it was useless. What awaited them was countless vines. Since he had left the team, The next step was to find the rainbow treasured tree. As long as he could obtain a single rainbow fruit, he would be able to break through to the 60 dragons level. This would be like reaching the heavens in a single bound. Although he couldn't see anything in this poisonous fog, and with his eyesight, he could only see a dozen meters. Fortunately, this was just an ordinary place, and there was no illusion array. Just now, he had confirmed the location, so he went straight there. More vines appeared as the battle progressed. At this moment, there were 10 vines attacking Yi Xian at the same time. Even an expert with 60 dragon strength would have a hard time dealing with them. At this moment, Yi Xian's brows suddenly furrowed. He finally sensed something different. This thing was extremely large, reaching dozens of meters tall. It was also constantly twisting. It was clearly a living thing. Yi Xian's first impression of it was that it was like the giant octopus in the deep sea. However, it had many more tentacles than the giant octopus. The rainbow treasured tree. This was Yi Xian's first reaction. Looks like I found the right one. Yi Xian's eyes flashed, and he immediately rushed over. When he was only 500 meters away from the rainbow treasured tree, the poisonous fog suddenly thinned out. His vision also widened bit by bit. When he saw the rainbow treasured tree clearly, his whole body trembled. How was this a rainbow treasured tree? What a joke! Right now, in front of him was a withered black tree that didn't even have a single leaf. It was as if it had been burnt. However, this black tree had dozens of thick branches swaying from top to bottom. It was constantly twisting, making Yi Xian feel disgusted. Seeing this, Yi Xian thought of the appearance of burning mercury sulfide. In other words, it was the serpent of Pharaoh. Demonic tree, this is a demonic tree. Yi Xian recognized it. He had heard of it before. A demonic tree was a strange creature. Although it was a plant, it was like a holy beast. Simply put, this demonic tree was also a type of holy beast. It just didn't have a holy beast soul. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Just as Yi Xian appeared, this demonic tree twisted its branches and stabbed at Yi Xian. This time, Yi Xian had to face dozens of vines and branches with 55 dragon power. Fortunately, he had already fused with the sacred tree of life's bloodline. His inner chi quickly recovered, allowing him to continuously use dragon's judgment to cut these vines in half. However, this demonic tree also had extremely strong recovery abilities. The demonic tree couldn't do anything to Yi Xian, and Yi Xian didn't have the energy to spare to attack the demonic tree's trunk. The two sides were in a deadlock. Damn, what happened to the rainbow treasured tree? Why is this disgusting demonic tree so strong? Yi Xian was somewhat helpless. But in the next moment, his expression suddenly changed. This was because he felt that this disgusting demonic tree's attack speed had increased by quite a bit. Moreover, even the vines and branches' defenses had become stronger. Why was this? Could it be that this demonic tree destroyed all 3 sides' teams? Yi Xian's heart trembled. If that was the case, then they were in trouble. At this moment, Yi Xian couldn't make up his mind. He could still use Beast King's rampage one last time to kill this demonic tree. However, he couldn't guarantee that this demonic tree was mutated from the rainbow treasured tree. Moreover, what if there was danger below? Just as he was thinking, a figure suddenly landed on the demonic tree's trunk. "Your Excellency, please stop." A familiar voice rang out. Then, the vines and branches stopped moving. Yi Xian turned his head in surprise and saw a man in white standing on the trunk. It was the masked man who rode the white crane. "It's you!" Yi Xian cried out in surprise. This mysterious man had finally appeared. The mysterious man was still wearing a mask. When he saw that Yi Xian recognized him, he nodded and said, "That's right, it's me." Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. Those beast skin maps were all made by this mysterious man. But this mysterious man could actually stand on the demonic tree's trunk. It was very strange. Yi Xian's doubts were more or less solved. He looked at the mysterious man and said coldly, "All of this is your trap, right?" "That's right," the masked man admitted directly. "All of this was my plan. Right now, I'm afraid that only you and I are alive on the 3rd floor. Chapter 382. Chilling Wind Mantis King. As expected. Yi Xian's heart sank. It seemed that the alliance between the 3 parties had been destroyed, including Xie Yu. You did this to absorb their corpses? Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. Yes, I wanted human corpses. The mysterious person nodded. When I discovered it, its life was about to come to an end. I just so happened to receive the heritage of the precious tree sect from 1,000 years ago. Therefore, I use human corpses to nurture it into a demon tree that feeds on human essence. The heritage of the precious tree sect. Yi Xian's eyes narrowed. This fellow was indeed connected to the precious tree sect. That rainbow fruit. Yi Xian murmured. It's already a miracle that it survived 1,000 years. How can it bear fruit? The mysterious man sneered. After a short pause he said, however, if it absorbs enough human blood essence, it can still bear a fruit. Originally, I wanted to kill these people, but I didn't expect an unforeseen event to occur. Kid, I'll give you a chance now. As long as you submit to me, I'll give you the second fruit that the demon tree bears. How about it? Submit. Yi Xian snorted coldly. Don't even think about submitting to someone. However, he focused on another key point in the mysterious man's words. The second fruit. This meant that the first fruit would belong to the mysterious man. He guessed in his heart, just how strong was this mysterious man. Since that's the case, why don't you do it yourself? Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. I only have 50 dragons of strength, so I can only lure them in and let the demon tree do the work. The mysterious man didn't hide anything, as if victory was in sight. 50 dragons of strength, huh? Yi Xian narrowed his eyes. He hadn't thought that the mysterious man's cultivation level was only 4 dragons higher than his. He estimated that he could kill the mysterious man instantly even without using the Beast King's rampage. Of course, that was if the demon tree didn't interfere. Kid, I know what you're thinking. You can't kill me because there are more than just demons here. Suddenly, the mysterious man shouted, Come out! What? His actions made Yi Xian's heart tremble. Could it be that the mysterious man had other helpers? At this moment, the demonic tree suddenly twisted violently, and then a crack appeared on its trunk. When Yi Xian saw the figure walking out of the demon tree, he was also shocked. Wind Mantis. This Wind Mantis was different from the ones he had seen before. Not only was its entire body a strange purplish red, but it was also taller and bigger. It's the Wind Mantis King that coexists with the tree demon. Its strength has already reached 65 dragon power. With it around, you won't be able to escape, the mysterious man said proudly. He was the one who had nurtured the rainbow treasured tree into a tree demon, and this Wind Mantis King had grown by relying on the tree demon. Therefore, he could indirectly command the Wind Mantis King. Then you want me to submit to you so that I can help you collect human corpses, right? If that's the case, why don't you let it out? Yi Xian asked in surprise. No, the chilling Wind Mantis King coexists with the tree demon. It can't be too far away. The mysterious man shook his head. Is that so? Yi Xian narrowed his eyes and said, What if I don't submit to you? The mysterious man sneered and said, I have 100 ways to make sure that you won't be able to survive. I like to attack those who think they have outstanding abilities the most. Remember, this is my territory. So what? Do you think that just the tree demon and this Wind Mantis King alone can pose a threat to me? Yi Xian's lips curled up slightly. The mysterious man mimicked him and asked, Do you think that with your strength, you can go against the Wind Mantis King? Hee hee. Yi Xian only laughed coldly. Suddenly, 10 dragons flew out from his body. 46 dragon power. Then, he used Beast King Rampage right in front of the mysterious man. 46 dragons turned into 60 dragons in an instant. What? The mysterious man was shocked. Yi Xian actually increased his strength by 14 dragon power. How was that possible? However, this didn't mean that Yi Xian could fight against the Wind Mantis King. After all, the Wind Mantis King was a sacred beast with 65 dragons. However, what he didn't know was that Yi Xian also had a 20% movement speed bonus. If he didn't use martial arts, his speed would surpass that of a martial artist with 70 dragons. If he used the heaven-shattering body technique at 70%, this Wind Mantis King would definitely not be able to keep up with him. Whoosh! Yi Xian didn't want to waste time. After using Beast King Rampage, he rushed out directly. The Wind Mantis King screamed and went up to meet him. As for the tree demon, it twisted its branches and attacked Yi Xian. Clang! Yi Xian took out the Dragon Slayer sword and slashed at the armor of the Wind Mantis King. Its defense is so strong. He frowned. This Wind Mantis King had also mutated. Its strength was much stronger than that of a sacred beast with 65 dragons. It probably reached 67 or 68 dragons, so its defense was very strong. Whoosh! After the Wind Mantis King approached Yi Xian, it also began to attack with its double scythes. Its attack speed was very fast. If it wasn't for Yi Xian's movement speed bonus, he probably wouldn't have been able to dodge it. At the same time, the tree demon also used its branches to attack Yi Xian. The branches of the tree demon were very tough and very difficult to cut off. Facing this double attack, Yi Xian also felt a little pressure. Although his strength had reached 60 dragons, his true chi was still at the realm of 46 dragons. It wouldn't be so easy to cut off the branches and the shell of the Wind Mantis King. Moreover, the tree demon's recovery was very strong. Even if it was cut off, it would grow back immediately. Moreover, there was a Wind Mantis King on the side, so he changed his battle plan. To catch bandits, first catch the ringleader. The ringleader here was referring to the mysterious man and the tree demon. The mysterious man had received the inheritance of the precious tree sect. There must be a lot of good things in the ring. If he could get the ring, he might be able to break through again. The tree demon was too difficult to deal with. It would be a good choice to kill it first. Anyway, the Wind Mantis King would be the last to be killed. Whoosh! Yi Xian suddenly burst out with speed and rushed toward the tree demon. The mysterious man's face changed greatly. He didn't expect Yi Xian to have such strength. It was a mistake. Fortunately, the tree demon and the Wind Mantis King were blocking him. Otherwise, Yi Xian would have run in front of him and cut off his head with his sword. Damn it, come out! The mysterious man cursed angrily. In the next moment, another crack appeared on the trunk of the tree demon. Then, another Wind Mantis King walked out of it. What? Yi Xian was shocked. There were two Wind Mantis Kings. Chapter 383. Underworld Swordplay. Yi Xian finally reacted. If there was only one Wind Mantis King, how could it produce so many tiny mantids? Although it was said that the female mantis would eat the male mantis while they were doing it, that was for ordinary mantises. The Wind Mantis was a holy beast. His expression became extremely gloomy. Two Wind Mantis Kings with 65 dragon strength and a tree demon, even if it was 70 dragon strength, it would be able to deal with a 70 dragon strength martial artist. Ha 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 boy, you didn't expect this, did you? Since you want to play, I don't mind playing with you. The mysterious man laughed. Humph. Yi Xian snorted coldly and used all his strength to break through. However, when the second Wind Mantis King joined the battle, he was stopped and even forced to retreat. What should we do? He thought quickly in his mind. Under such circumstances, he no longer had any helpers. With 30 dragons' strength, he would be sending himself to his death. At this moment, an idea suddenly flashed through his mind. Previously, when he had collected so many corpses, he had forgotten one thing, and that was the fusion of martial arts. At this moment, there were still more than 50 sword-type martial arts in the devouring system that had yet to be fused. This was his last straw. Otherwise he could only flee. Ding! Fusion of martial arts failed. 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 Ding! Fusion of martial arts successful. Host has obtained a middle-grade heaven-level martial art. Underworld Sword Art. Do you want to learn it? After hearing this notification, Yi Xian's eyes flashed and he immediately replied, yes. Ding! Host has learned the Underworld Swordsmanship. Current level is 10%. He had finally fused his powers. Yi Xian's eyes widened. This time, he did not use the Sky Wind Sword technique, but the Underworld Sword technique. But now, his position was even more dangerous. Beast King's rage had a duration. If he didn't leave after the duration was up, he would be dead for sure. Since the beginning of time, who hasn't died? Dying early or dying late doesn't make any difference. Let's fight. Yi Xian couldn't care less and began to fight to the death with the two Wind Mantis Kings. Although the Underworld Sword Art was a middle-grade heaven-tier martial art, it was only at 10% completion. No matter how strong it was, it could not be stronger than the Sky Wind Sword Art at 100% completion. However, Yi Xian had the bloodline of a sword saint and had a deep understanding of swordsmanship. Ding! Underworld swordsmanship's proficiency level has increased. Current proficiency level is 20%. Ding! Underworld swordsmanship proficiency has increased. Current proficiency is at 30%. In less than 3 seconds, his mastery of the Underworld sword art had increased by 20%. Right now, the power of the Underworld sword technique had just caught up with the Heavenly Wind sword technique. Ding! Underworld swordsmanship's proficiency level has increased. Current proficiency level is 40%. At this moment, the power of the Underworld sword technique had already surpassed the Sky Wind sword technique. Originally, he was already at a disadvantage. Now that his attack power had increased, he immediately fought back. However, it was still not enough to kill the 2 Wind Mantis Kings. Ding! Underworld swordsmanship's proficiency level has increased. Current proficiency level is 50%. This time it was enough. Haha, you're dead meat. Yi Xian's eyes burst out 2 rays of light and condensed into the Dragon Slayer sword again. Dragon Slaying Sword of 8 Desolation. Dragon's Judgment. A huge white slash swept out and slashed towards the Devil Tree. Yi Xian had tried to attack the Devil Tree from a distance, but the Dragon's Judgment was broken by the sides of the 2 Wind Mantis Kings. This time, the male Wind Mantis King still rushed over and slashed with his scythes, preparing to break the Dragon's Judgment. However, this Dragon's Judgment was only Yi Xian's attempt to lure the tiger away from the mountain. Underworld Swordsmanship, Sword of Underworld. While the male Mantis King was away, Yi Xian suddenly attacked the female Mantis King. With a slash of his sword, the female Mantis King's head flew off. The Underworld Swordsmanship's 50% proficiency level had already surpassed the Sky Wind Swordsmanship's 100% proficiency level. Coupled with the Beast King Bloodline's Beast King deterrence, even if the female Mantis King's armor was hard, it could not withstand the slash. The female Mantis King was dead. Yi Xian rushed forward and devoured the female Mantis King's corpse. Ding! Host has broken through to 48 dragon power. When the notification sounded, 3 more dragons appeared beside Yi Xian. 63 dragon power. Beast King Rampage. A divine skill. The male Mantis King had just broken the Dragon's Judgment, and by the time it reacted, Yi Xian was already in front of it. Underworld Swordsmanship, Sword of Underworld. A slash containing the aura of death swept across the male Mantis King's head. It suffered the same fate as the female Mantis King, being beheaded by Yi Xian. Ding! Host has broken through to 50 dragon power. The number of dragons changed once again. Now, Yi Xian had 65 dragon power. The 2 Mantis Kings were killed by Yi Xian within a second. This scene happened so quickly that the mysterious man did not have time to react. By the time he reacted, Yi Xian had already slashed out with the Dragon's Judgment. The Dragon's Judgment cut through dozens of branches, then sank into the trunk of the demonic tree, which was at least 10 meters thick. Crack! The trunk of the demonic tree was cut in half at the waist, then fell backward. No! The mysterious man standing on a branch shouted loudly. This demonic tree was something that he had spent a lot of effort to cultivate. Just a little more, and he would have been able to condense a fruit if he had just gotten a few more human corpses. Just as he was feeling pained, a figure flew over. He only saw a flash of cold light, and then he saw his own body. Like the 2 Mantis Kings, it had its head chopped off. Plop! His head fell to the ground, and his eyes were filled with resentment. He would never have thought that he, who could control 2 Wind Mantis Kings, would die at the hands of Yi Xian. In fact, when the last Dragon's Judgment was slashed out, the duration of Beast King's rampage had already passed. However, both Wind Mantis Kings were dead, so this battle was a foregone conclusion. Humph! How dare you be so arrogant in front of me with only 50 dragon power? You're courting death. Yi Xian snorted coldly and took off the mysterious man's mask. It was a face that he had never seen before. However, this mysterious man's age was beyond his expectations. He estimated that this person was at most 25 years old. He was just curious. Now that he saw the mysterious man's true face, he did not think much of it. He turned around and put away the mysterious man's yin and yang ring. When he turned to look at the demonic tree, He found that the decapitated demonic tree began to wither quickly, then turned into a thick layer of ash. What a pity! If I devoured it, it would have been worth a lot of experience points. Yi Xian shook his head helplessly. He began to check the mysterious man's yin and yang ring, and found that there were indeed many good things inside. Most of them were heaven and earth treasures. At the same time, there was a pile of books on the cultivation of heaven and earth treasures in the precious tree sect. Yi Xian was not interested in this, but he still recorded it into the devouring system. Ding! The host has broken through to 52 dragon power. Chapter 384. He got the wrong person. Ding! Host has broken through to 52 dragons power. After devouring everything inside, Yi Xian's strength increased again. Although there was no rainbow fruit that could allow one to break through to 60 dragon power, Yi Xian's harvest this time was quite good. One had to know that when he came, he was not even 30 dragons. Now, the matter was finally over. Yi Xian observed his surroundings for a moment before quickly leaving. However, he didn't leave the third level. Instead, he ran around in the poisonous fog. In this fog, there were still wind mantises. At this moment, Yi Xian felt that something was amiss. He looked down and realized that the vines under his feet were beginning to wither. Wei Zhentian! He hastily called out Wei Zhentian. Boom! The entire sea of vines turned into ashes and collapsed. Fortunately, Yi Xian reacted quickly and sat on Wei Zhentian's back. So that's how it is. This poisonous fog is emitted by the pile of poisonous heavenly treasures below. Yi Xian rode Megatron and quickly descended. Down below, there were countless skeletons of human beings and corpses of sinister wind mantises, as well as many cosmos rings and poisonous herbs. Yi Xian jumped down from Wei Zhentian's back again. Previously, he didn't dare to collect these poisonous plants. Now that he had fused with the sacred tree of life's bloodline, he wasn't afraid anymore. Immediately, he began to collect the heavenly materials and earthly treasures and interspatial rings. As for the wind mantises that were still alive, he just killed them one by one. The fog had yet to descend, so he took this opportunity to explore the entire third floor. At the same time, he also discovered the corpses of the 3 sect alliance members, which naturally included the Xie family. What a pity, such a beauty is gone just like that. Yi Xian shook his head helplessly. After sweeping through the third floor, he returned to the second floor. There were still many poisonous plants on the second floor, so he strolled around for a while before returning to the first floor. The first level's natural treasures were almost completely swept clean. After all, many people retreated in the face of the second level's poisonous fog and returned to the land. When Yi Xian devoured all of these things, he broke through to 55 dragon power. Of the 4 great forces in this area, the strongest was only 54 dragons, and he had already surpassed that. Looks like I can't stay here any longer. I have to go to a more prosperous place. Yi Xian thought to himself. Now, he also understood the geographical structure of the Bloodstone continent. He was currently in the Luo Sha region, which was under the jurisdiction of the Battle King Hall. The Luo Sha region was divided into countless territories. His current territory was extremely small, and it couldn't even be considered a low-level territory. After all, there was a spirit realm expert in a low-level territory. However, when he returned to the land, he discovered that there were other people here. However, he felt that something was wrong because he saw a few people who seemed to be interrogating others. They're out. Someone's out. Someone suddenly shouted. Everyone turned their heads to look and saw Yi Xian, the strange white-clothed man wearing a mask. Master, that's him. At this time, someone suddenly pointed at him and shouted. Oh! An elder turned his head to look at Yi Xian in surprise. You're the one who killed my disciple? Your disciple? Yi Xian turned his head with some surprise, wondering if the other had mistaken him for someone else. The youth who'd pointed at him just now continued. Master, he's the one who set the trap and killed junior brother, stealing the precious tree sect's heritage that originally belonged to us. Yi Xian was now certain that the other had mistaken him for someone else. This was because he was still wearing a mask. The mysterious person was also wearing a mask and wearing white, and was about the same height as him. Bastard! How dare you kill my disciple? I'm going to capture you and let you experience the feeling of being cut into 1,000 pieces. The elder roared loudly and charged towards Yi Xian with large strides. 65 dragons. This elder was actually an expert with 65 dragons. Yi Xian's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. It was obvious that this elder was definitely a local and had come from another territory. At this time, he'd also thought things through. The mysterious person must have killed someone and stolen the precious tree sect's heritage. He must have heard of what was happening here and hurried over. What was even more coincidental was that he'd mistaken him for the mysterious person who died. Although Yi Xian wanted to explain, the elder was too fast and didn't give him a chance to speak. He was in front of him in the blink of an eye. This elder had 65 dragons of strength, the same as the 2 wind mantis kings. However, his strength was absolutely above the 2 mantis kings. The elder's casual punch contained unparalleled strength. If this punch had landed on Yi Xian's head, it would have blown Yi Xian's brains apart. However, Yi Xian wouldn't allow him to be so presumptuous. Bahuang's sword, break. With a crisp sound, the Bahuang sword shattered into 8 sharp blades and attacked Yi Xian from 8 directions. At the same time, Yi Xian also used the heaven-shattering movement method to dodge the punch. Whoosh whoosh. The elder was slightly surprised when the wind from the punch whistled past him. Humph. Have you already swallowed that rainbow fruit? A mere 55 dragons is nothing to this old man. The elder's body trembled as a thick surge of true qi rippled out, sending the 8 blades flying. However, the Bahuang wind formation was only one of Yi Xian's attacks. At this moment, Yi Xian had already taken out a low-rank celestial weapon. An aura of death began to spread out. Yi Xian chopped down with extreme speed. It was as if Mount Tai was crashing down, giving the elder a sense of oppression. What? The elder once again felt incredulous. It was extremely rare for a cultivator with 55 dragons of strength to be able to train a sword method to such a level. However, he wasn't to be trifled with. Clang! The elder took out a long sword and blocked the chop. Then, he used his true qi to push Yi Xian's long sword away and counterattacked. His attack wasn't any weaker than Yi Xian's. 100% mastery? Yi Xian reacted instantly. He didn't expect to see an expert who had trained his martial arts to 100% mastery. However, he wasn't afraid. Bahuang's sword, assemble. He reassembled the Bahuang sword. His opponent's offensive and movement techniques were on par with his. Therefore, if he wanted to win, he had to use the Bahuang sword. The Bahuang sword was stronger when facing a strong opponent. Yi Xian held it in his hand. The strength of his true qi wasn't any weaker than the elder's. Moreover, he could use the elder to increase the proficiency of the underworld swordsmanship. This brat does have some ability. The old man frowned, but his eyes flashed with killing intent. His 3 disciples were right behind him. His 65 dragons of strength couldn't do anything to a 55 dragons brat like Yi Xian. It was really embarrassing. Therefore, he didn't want to capture Yi Xian. Instead, he attacked with all his might to kill Yi Xian. However, after exchanging more than 10 moves with Yi Xian, he realized that he couldn't do anything to Yi Xian. Moreover, he had a bad premonition in his heart. Chapter 385. Kill. Ding. Yellow Spring Sword Technique's proficiency level has increased. Current proficiency level is 60%. Ding. Yellow Spring Sword Technique's proficiency level has reached the upper limit. When Yi Xian heard this notification in his mind, the corners of Yi Xian's mouth curled up slightly. Proficiency level should be related to his cultivation level. As long as he continued to break through, the number would increase again. But this was a topic for another time. Right now, he had to kill this old man first. If you don't give me a chance to speak, then I'll kill you. I'll send you to hell with my 60% proficiency level Yellow Spring Sword Technique. Yi Xian's aura surged as he turned his anger into strength and attacked madly. Originally, he and the old man were evenly matched. However, as his proficiency in the middle-grade heaven-class underworld sword art increased, he broke the balance. The situation was tilting in his direction, and the old man was gradually falling into a disadvantageous position. How is this possible? The old man's 3 disciples were shocked. Although they only had 50 dragon strength, they understood the old man's strength. But today, the old man couldn't do anything to someone whose cultivation level was lower than his. This was too surreal. What's going on? Why does Master seem to be at a disadvantage? Impossible. There must be a problem. The other must have used some underhanded method. It's only been a few months, but this person's cultivation level has soared to 5 dragons. His battle strength has also skyrocketed. This must be the effect of the precious tree sex inheritance and the rainbow fruit. The 3 of them had greedy expressions on their faces. They had come here for 2 reasons. Firstly, to avenge their junior brother. Secondly, to obtain the rainbow fruit that could allow them to break through to 60 dragon powers. Swish! At this moment, a crisp sound suddenly rang out, and the 3 saw the old man rapidly retreat. Master's arm has been cut off. The 3 were very shocked. At this moment, the old man suddenly shouted, "Bastard brat, this old man won't let you have peace even if I die." The old man's voice reverberated in the air, and then his body began to expand. Bam! After a huge sound, the old man's body suddenly exploded, sending pieces of flesh flying everywhere. Yi Xian was also astonished. What kind of F*King martial arts was this? How could he self-destruct? However, when the old man self-destructed, he had already used his true energy to protect himself, so the flesh and blood did not splatter onto him. However, the moment the old man died, a red mark drilled into his body. Ding! Host has been hit by the soul-chasing imprint. Soul-chasing mark? Yi Xian frowned in astonishment. What was this? When did he get it? He looked down and was shocked to find that his chest was stained red. Just now, he had used his Zhengqi to block the attack, but what he had blocked was the old man's blood essence using a special method. It was a type of sensory imprint. What the hell is this? Yi Xian reached out and tried to wipe it off. Realizing that he couldn't wipe it off, he flipped open his shirt to take a look. There was already a red on his chest, but he still couldn't wipe it off. Just as he was thinking about it, the old man's 3 disciples looked at each other. An expert with 65 dragons of power was beheaded by Yi Xian with 55 dragons of power. This was a challenge that surpassed 10 levels. Run! The 3 of them immediately reacted and turned to run. You want to run? Yi Xian's eyes flickered, but he did not chase after them. He quietly collected the old man's interspatial ring. However, the 8 sharp blades had already shattered and caught up to the 3 of them. Rip! Rip! 2 crisp sounds were heard, and 2 heads flew. Meanwhile, the 3rd person was stopped by several sharp blades and did not dare to move at all. Don't kill me. The last person was so scared that he wet himself and hurriedly begged for mercy. Yi Xian put away the old man's interspatial ring, then slowly walked over and said, "What is this red on my body?" The young man swallowed and said slowly, "If I tell you, you won't kill me?" However, just as he said this, he felt a chill on his arm, and a fresh severed arm was thrown into the air. I'll tell you. The young man endured the pain of his severed arm and hurriedly said, "This is a secret technique of the Gui Yuan sect. It condenses all the blood in the body into a single drop and leaves a mark on the enemy's body. Anyone who practices the Gui Yuan sect's techniques will be able to sense it." So you're saying that I'm now a GPS signal transmitter? Yi Xian thought to himself. If he encountered someone from the Gui Yuan sect, he would definitely be thought to have killed someone from the Gui Yuan sect. When that time came, he would attract a lot of trouble. I've already told you. Can you spare? The young man said. However, before he could finish speaking, the 8 desolate blades were suddenly activated. Then, another head was thrown into the air. Facing an enemy, Yi Xian would not show mercy. If he let the tiger return to the mountain, it would only bring him more trouble. Then, he put away the 3 people's interspatial rings. Ding! The host has broken through to 58 dragons of power. The old man and the 3 people were quite wealthy. It allowed him to jump from 55 dragons of power to 58 dragons of power. At this moment, if the old man could be resurrected, he would probably be killed by Yi Xian in an instant. At this moment, Yi Xian noticed that there were more than 10 warriors from the family who had been captured by the old man and the other 3 for interrogation. "Sir, please spare our lives." The leader of the warriors took the lead and knelt down. Then, everyone else knelt down. Although Yi Xian had killed many people, it was not to the extent of killing innocent people. Moreover, these people were not at a high level, so he was too lazy to make a move. "Hand over your interspatial rings and I'll spare your lives." Yi Xian's cold voice fell into everyone's ears. Yes. Immediately, this group of people took off their interspatial rings. Then, the leader of the warriors handed them over to Yi Xian. They also understood that Yi Xian wanted to let them go. Otherwise, they would have become corpses long ago. Even an expert with 65 dragons of power had died at the hands of Yi Xian. If Yi Xian wanted to kill them, it would be a piece of cake. After keeping the interspatial rings, Yi Xian quickly left and disappeared in front of this group of people. Phew! This group of people heaved a sigh of relief. Although they were penniless, it was already very difficult to keep their lives. After leaving, Yi Xian summoned Wei Zhentian and went to a quiet place. There were many ores in the old man's interspatial ring. Together with the heaven artifacts that he had collected, Wei Zhentian had the chance to eat a good meal. This time, it was a close call, but I used up my last Beast King rampage. Next, I have to go and get some corpses of the sacred beasts of 60 dragons. Yi Xian thought to himself. Beast King rampage was his greatest trump card. In this world where danger lurked everywhere, he needed to have a trump card that he could use at all times. This time, he rested for 3 full days. Chapter 386. How unlucky! His heaven-shattering method had also improved slightly in these 3 days, breaking through to 80%. As for the Yellow Spring Sword technique, he still couldn't improve it, so he could only give it up for now. During this time, he also experimented and tested the Sacred Tree of Life's abilities. Indeed, the Sacred Tree of Life possessed unparalleled recovery abilities. He hardened his heart and cut off his left arm. Immediately afterwards, he saw the severed arm begin to shrink and turn into a puddle of blood. But before this, a new arm grew out from where his severed arm had been, looking exactly the same as before. The Sacred Tree of Life was indeed amazing. Yi Xian was very much looking forward to this. If a top-rank bloodline was already so strong, how strong would a divine rank bloodline be? As for the soul-chasing seal, Yi Xian didn't pay much attention to it. He estimated that as long as he reached 65 dragons of strength, he should be able to get rid of it. 3 days later, he left on Wei Zhentian, who'd grown to 50 dragons of strength. Now, this area couldn't hold him anymore, so he had to go to a higher-level place. His destination this time was a place called Redwood Region. This territory could barely be considered a low-level territory because its lord was a spirit realm expert. Wei Zhentian's speed had increased greatly after breaking through to 50 dragons of strength. Yi Xian arrived at Redwood Region in just 2 days. 2 days of hurrying had caused Yi Xian's mouth to grow thin. He had Wei Zhentian stop outside the city, then prepared to enter the city to eat a good meal and take care of some matters along the way. What he wanted to do now was to find an auction house and pass down the precious tree sect's method of cultivating worldly treasures. Even the worst sect in Redwood Region was stronger than the precious tree sect, but that didn't mean that no one wanted the sect's methods. In fact, they might even pay a high price. After all, this was a land of great talents. If a large sect obtained it, they might be able to grow a spirit tree that was even better than the rainbow treasure tree. Of course, he also wanted to purchase some sacred beast corpses with 60 dragons of strength. Yi Xian entered the city called Devil Ape City. The demon ape was an extremely powerful saint beast, with a strength of 70 dragon powers. The city lord of the Devil Ape City had cultivated a technique that allowed him to temporarily transform into a devil ape. Yi Xian walked in. After asking around, he found a good restaurant and prepared to have a good meal. The restaurant was a good place to hear many things. This time, Yi Xian heard about the Undying Sword God. The Undying Sword God had attempted the Sword God Pagoda more than 1,000 times, but he had never succeeded. Furthermore, the Undying Sword God was heavily injured this time, so he should be able to rest for a while. Yi Xian didn't take it to heart because he was too far away from the Undying Sword God. The Undying Sword God was an expert that had surpassed the spirit's 4 realms. He had already reached the Nihility God realm. As for Yi Xian, he hadn't even reached the spirit realm. This kind of thing, it was better to just listen. When the dishes were served, Yi Xian was like a hungry tiger and began to eat like crazy. However, when he was halfway through his meal, a voice suddenly rang out. "Young masters, this way please." The waiter led the 2 of them upstairs. "Senior brother, where did the elders go?" "The elders went to find the Devil Ape City's city lord. They will be here soon." "City lord? How does the elders know the city lord?" "Nonsense. The city lord of the Devil Ape City was once an elder of our Gue Yuan sect. Where do you think we get all our cultivation resources from?" So that's how it is. The two white-clothed youths chatted as they walked upstairs. At the same time, when Yi Xian heard the conversation between the two, his chopsticks couldn't help but stop. Gui Yuan sect? The elder he killed in the precious tree sex plantation was a member of the Gui Yuan sect. Damn, my luck is too bad. The Gui Yuan sect is actually established in the Redwood territory. Yi Xian thought to himself. At this moment, the two of them had already gone upstairs. Suddenly, the young man in the lead frowned and looked straight at Yi Xian. From the beginning, he'd had a strange feeling in his heart. Now that he saw Yi Xian, two rays of light shot out from his eyes. Senior brother, this feeling, could it be the soul-chasing mark? The leading youth's junior brother asked in surprise. The leading youth's face was cold. This was the first time he had encountered the soul-chasing mark, so he didn't immediately react. He narrowed his eyes and looked at Yi Xian. He stealthily placed his hand on his long sword and said in a low voice, "Junior brother, he has the soul-chasing mark on him. He must have killed someone from our Gui Yuan sect. Later, you will help me capture this person. But, we don't know his cultivation level." The junior brother replied in a low voice. "So what? The reason why our Gui Yuan sect has been able to survive until now is because of our unity. Now that we have seen the person who killed our disciples, how can we let him go?" The youth said in a low voice. His junior brother was still a little worried and said weakly, "Senior brother, why don't we wait for the elders?" "Junior brother, you were promoted to a true disciple, but you are still so weak. Since you are afraid, I will do it myself." After the youth finished speaking, he pulled out his long sword with a clang and charged towards Yi Xian. "Brat, how dare you kill someone from our Gui Yuan sect? Today, I will avenge my junior brother." When these words fell into Yi Xian's ears, a simple and unadorned long sword appeared in his hand. Crack! The Bahuang sword broke into 8 pieces and flew out in an instant. The youth only had 58 dragons of strength, which was the same level as Yi Xian. Facing the attack of the Bahuang wind formation, he probably wouldn't even last a second. Indeed, in less than a second, the youth was chopped into several pieces. Not only that, but his junior brother also died miserably. When the two heads fell to the floor of the second floor of the restaurant, the entire second floor fell silent. Someone actually dared to kill someone in the Devil Ape City? No one in the Redwood territory agreed. The Devil Ape City also had its own laws, and one of them was that it was forbidden to kill in the city. However, Yi Xian had already violated this law. After all, he had already killed someone from the Gui Yuan sect, so he might as well kill 2 more. He quickly stood up, put away the 2 people's belongings, and turned to leave. However, just as he jumped out, a loud roar resounded in the sky. "How dare you kill a disciple of the Gui Yuan sect? You are courting death." Hearing this, Yi Xian turned his head and saw 3 elders running towards him on the roof. Gui Yuan sect elders. 1 with 68 dragons, 2 with 67 dragons. Yi Xian glanced at them and his heart trembled. With his current strength, he should be able to fight against the 3 of them. However, this was the Devil Ape City. If he fought, what if the mayor of the Devil Ape City was attracted? Chapter 387. Lord of Demonic Ape City. I don't care if you're from the Gui Yuan sect. Kill. Yi Xian immediately made a decision in his heart. He estimated that if he killed these 3 people, he would at least be able to break through to 60 dragon power. Suddenly, his aura surged as he condensed a dragon-slaying sword and charged forward. "Brat, you're advancing instead of retreating. Do you think the 3 of us are trash?" One of the Gui Yuan sect elders was furious as he raised his hand and slapped towards Yi Xian. This slap was like a mountain pressing down on Yi Xian. However, Yi Xian did not care at all as he slashed down with his dragon-slaying sword. Dragon's Judgment. Bang! The 2 energies collided and a shockwave swept out in an instant, sending some of the stronger martial artists flying. Those who could live here were all weak. The weakest among them had 40 dragon power and would not be killed by the shockwave. However, these buildings were different. In an instant, the surrounding buildings collapsed with a loud bang. Smoke and dust filled the air as a great battle broke out. "Brat, I don't care which sect you're from. Since you dared to kill my people, I want you to pay with your life." After witnessing Yi Xian's power, the leading elder roared in anger. He was different from the 2 Gui Yuan sect disciples. He was very familiar with the soul-chasing mark, so he could sense it in an instant. At the same time, he also guessed that Yi Xian should be from some big faction. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to block his attack with only 58 dragon power. Dang! The three of them did not dare to be careless. They instantly rushed to Yi Xian's side and attacked together. As for Yi Xian, he was also holding his dragon-slaying sword and using a mid-grade heaven-level martial art, the underworld sword technique. Although he was weaker than the three of them, with a 20% increase in movement speed, the mid-grade heaven-level martial art, the underworld sword technique, and the 8 desolate sword, it was only a matter of time before he killed the three of them. I have to end this quickly. Die, my sword falls to the underworld. Yi Xian swept out his sword and struck one of them with lightning speed, sending him flying. Although he was not able to kill him, he was able to severely injure him, which was beyond everyone's expectations. Most importantly, the pincer attack of the three instantly turned into 2. This must be a mid-grade heaven-level martial art. The 2 old men who were still present were stunned for a moment before they reacted. That kind of attack power had already surpassed what they knew. Kill him and get the mid-grade heaven-level martial art. The 2 of them had the same thought. However, they underestimated Yi Xian's strength. 8 desolate sword, 60% mastery of middle-grade heaven-level martial arts, and sword saint bloodline. You think you can stop me? Yi Xian suddenly raised his head and let out a long howl. His entire body moved like a ghost. His speed was even faster than the 2 of them. T dies underworld, sword descends. Yi Xian roared angrily as he slashed out again, sending an elder flying. Now, there was only one person left. Not good. The remaining elder's face darkened. Even if he was 10 dragons stronger than Yi Xian, the 3 of them could not do anything to Yi Xian. Now that he was the only one left, how could he fight? Retreat! The old man's eyes flashed as he explosively retreated. However, Yi Xian's speed was even faster than his. How could he leave? With 2 less obstacles, Yi Xian could focus on attacking the elder. In just a second, the elder was completely defeated by the 60% Imperial City Sword techniques. Kid, you're courting death. The 2 elders who were sent flying by Yi Xian also came forward. However, they did not see that 2 beams of light had already shot out from Yi Xian's eyes. Underworld Sword Technique, S. Yi Xian's body suddenly emitted a sinister aura. Without hesitation, he turned around and slashed with his sword. A crisp sound was heard, followed by a head being thrown into the air. He was already heavily injured and his strength was greatly reduced. However, he courted death by sending himself to Yi Xian. Yi Xian naturally would not show mercy. After the death of the 67 Dragons Origin returning sect elder, Yi Xian took a step forward and took off his universe ring. Ding! The host has broken through to 59 dragons. Another flying dragon rose from the elder's body. He broke through in battle. The remaining 2 elders were shocked. They finally understood who they had offended. They immediately turned around and fled. Yi Xian naturally wouldn't miss the opportunity to beat a drowning dog. With a few strides, he killed the other heavily injured old man. After devouring the items in the Qian Kuan ring, he set his eyes on the elder of the Gui Yuan sect who had 68 dragons. City Lord, save me! The elder suddenly roared as if he had seen a glimmer of hope. Yi Xian frowned. Looking through the elder's silhouette, he saw a burly man rushing towards them. It was the City Lord of the Devil Ape City. Oh no! His expression changed as he quickly chased after him. Underworld Sword Technique. An aura of death spread. Stop! The burly man in front of Yi Xian shouted. However, he could not scare Yi Xian. Yi Xian waved his arm and the 3rd elder's head flew off. Blood splattered everywhere like a fountain. Dead. With his head chopped off, the elder's speed slowed down. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Yi Xian quickly took the elder's universe ring. Ding! The host has broken through to 60 dragons of power. When this notification sounded, Yi Xian's fighting spirit burned to the extreme. However, he did not have time to rejoice because the burly man had already rushed in front of him. The moment the burly man punched, Yi Xian's brain suddenly stopped working. It was as if time had been pulled back to a few centuries ago. When Yi Xian came back to his senses, the wind from the punch had already arrived. No, rather than calling it a fist, It would be better to call it a huge meteorite that smashed towards Yi Xian. So strong. If I get hit, I'm afraid I'll be killed instantly. Yi Xian's heart sank. At this moment, he had no way to retreat. He could only face it head-on. Crack! With a crisp sound, the Bahuang sword shattered and reformed into the Bahuang shield in front of him. Coincidentally, the burly man's punch also arrived. An incomparably powerful force slammed into the 8 Desolation shield. Yi Xian did not have time to dodge and took the hit. Boom! The huge impact landed on Yi Xian's chest. Yi Xian could only feel the qi and blood in his body churning. He could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. At the same time, he also felt that several of his bones were broken. Bam! The burly man's punch sent Yi Xian flying. However, he did not follow up with another attack. Chapter 388. The Fierce Battle. You killed 3 of them? The muscular man looked at Yi Xian in disbelief. There were 7 dragons flying around him, all of them big. 70 dragon strength. He was the Devil Ape City's mayor. What the F***ck? It's just 2 more dragons. Isn't that a little too strong? Yi Xian felt a chill in his heart. If the Devil Ape City's mayor took advantage of the situation and attacked him, he would be in danger. However, he was only hit by that punch because of the Devil Ape City's mayor's sneak attack. Otherwise, he would not have been hit. They wanted to kill me. Do you think I will be killed by them? Yi Xian said word by word. He was stalling for time so that the sacred tree of life could heal his injuries. In the blink of an eye, the broken ribs were broken down and replaced by new ones. This was the powerful recovery ability of the sacred tree of life. As long as he was not killed instantly, he would be able to heal indefinitely. The Devil Ape City's mayor was stunned. He narrowed his eyes and said, "You have the soul-chasing mark of the Gui Yuan sect. Did you kill the people of the Gui Yuan sect?" Yi Xian was also stunned. In the next moment, he suddenly remembered the conversation between the 2 Gui Yuan sect's direct disciples in the restaurant. The Devil Ape City's mayor was also an elder of the Gui Yuan sect. Naturally, he also practiced the techniques of the Gui Yuan sect. He wanted to kill me and steal my treasure. Can't I resist? Yi Xian narrowed his eyes and said. The Devil Ape City's mayor snorted. What you said has no evidence. However, it is a fact that you killed 3 elders of the Gui Yuan sect. Surrender and I'll spare your life. Yi Xian was able to kill 3 elders of the Gui Yuan sect. This was enough to prove his aptitude. A person with such aptitude would definitely have an extraordinary identity. In the Redwood territory, there were many cities that were more powerful than the Devil Ape City. There were even families that were more powerful than the Devil Ape City. He was testing Yi Xian. However, he did not know that Yi Xian came from a small continent. No, rather than a continent, it would be better to call him a small island. Therefore, Yi Xian naturally would not reveal his name. It's impossible for me to surrender. If you want to capture me, we'll have to see if you have the ability to do so. Yi Xian laughed coldly. At this time, his injuries had already healed, and even his true qi had recovered to its peak. I'll give you another chance. You better cherish it. Your 60 dragon power is nothing in my eyes. The demonic ape city master narrowed his eyes. How do you know that I will definitely lose to you if we haven't fought? Yi Xian's expression turned cold. Just now, he had killed 3 elders of the Gui Yuan sect with a strength of 58 dragons, and one of them was 68 dragons. That was a strength that exceeded the strength of 10 dragons. Now, he had broken through to 60 dragons, while Devil Ape City's city master had 70 dragons of power. That was a difference of 10 dragons. However, Devil Ape City's city master's strength was not something that an ordinary 70 dragons expert could compare to. He had to take this seriously. After all, the sacred beast corpses that he had devoured were not enough for him to use Beast King Rampage once. Alright, since you don't know how to appreciate my kindness, then I'll see what right you have to kill people in my territory. The demonic ape city lord shouted loudly as he madly dashed towards Yi Xian. He didn't know when he'd put on a pair of gloves. Sorrowful emptiness palm. Devil Ape City Master struck out with his palm, and a huge palm print destroyed the street as it rushed toward Yi Xian. Yi Xian had no intention of retreating. He condensed his Dragon Slayer sword and used the Bahuang sword to make up for the difference in true qi between him and Devil Ape City Master. In terms of true qi, he was not inferior. In terms of speed, he was not inferior either. In terms of attack, he was even more superior than Devil Ape City Master. Underworld sword technique, a mid-tier heaven-level martial art, and the power of his sword Saint bloodline allowed him to easily defeat the huge palm print. You do have some ability. Devil Ape City Master raised an eyebrow. He had underestimated Yi Xian. Again. Devil Ape City Master roared and rushed forward. This time, he wanted to fight in close combat. At this time, countless people had gathered on the rooftops in the distance. A battle of this level was not something that could be seen everywhere. Some talented people could learn a lot from this battle and improve themselves. However, no one present could see Yi Xian's speed clearly. They could only hear the huge movements and afterimages. So strong. Where did this kid come from? He can actually fight to a draw with the City Master. Nonsense. How can it be a draw? The City Master still has a trump card that he hasn't used yet. Yes, there's still the Devil Ape transformation. The City Master seems to have cultivated this martial art to an extremely high level. Once he uses it, he can increase the strength of 5 dragons. Increasing the strength of 7 dragons by 5 dragons. That's 75 dragons. That's terrifying. A group of people began to chat. On the battlefield, the battle was intense. Tendon splitting hand. Underworld sword style. Yi Xian and Devil Ape City Master both used their best martial arts. The latter's tendon-splitting hand had been cultivated to the pinnacle and was extremely powerful. Every time Yi Xian was hit, the meridians in his hand would instantly rupture. Fortunately, he had the bloodline of the sacred tree of life. In less than a second after his meridians ruptured, they would automatically reconnect. Therefore, Devil Ape City Master's move had no effect on him. What's wrong with this kid? Normally, a person's entire arm would be crippled after being hit by my palm. But I've already hit him 3 times, and he's still able to fight back as if nothing happened. Devil Ape City Master thought as he attacked. He could not understand what was going on with Yi Xian. Yi Xian, on the other hand, was secretly laughing. He had deliberately extended his left hand to let his opponent hit him. His goal was to exhaust his opponent's true energy. At this time, he and Devil Ape City Master seemed to be evenly matched, but in fact, he had the upper hand. However, Devil Ape City Master's realm was higher than his, and his true energy was more abundant. He did not care about a mere 3 palm strikes. The battle between the two was extremely intense. They fought from outside the restaurant all the way down the long street. The entire street was destroyed by them. Fortunately, the people had already dispersed. Otherwise, they would have been caught in the crossfire. A battle of this level could easily affect the crowd. If they were not careful, there would be heavy casualties. Kid, I admit that you're very strong, but you're just wasting time. I'll give you one more chance. As long as you surrender, I'll guarantee your safety. Devil Ape City Master shouted. This was the 3rd chance he had given Yi Xian. City Master really knows how to joke. Yi Xian snorted coldly and continued to attack. If Devil Ape City Master only had this much ability, he would be exhausted to death sooner or later. Moreover, he had the strength to retreat. If he wanted to leave, Devil Ape City Master would not be able to do anything to him. The two fought fiercely along the long street from the east to the west, destroying nearly half of the city. At the same time, Devil Ape City Master's true energy was reduced to less than half. Chapter 389. Kill as usual. This kid only has 60 dragon powers, but he has the ability to fight against me. The weapon in his hand should be a mid-grade heaven-class weapon, and the martial arts he is using should also be a mid-grade heaven-class martial arts. Where did he come from? The demonic ape city lord frowned. Yi Xian's identity was too mysterious, so he did not kill him. If it were anyone else, he would have used his trump card and killed them. As he pondered in his heart, he was completely unaware that he and Yi Xian had already fought all the way to his doorstep. The huge commotion immediately attracted the attention of the experts in the City Lord manor. Isn't that the City Lord? The City Lord is fighting with someone. He's so strong. Who is that kid? He can actually fight the City Lord to a draw? Cut the crap. Go and help. A few experts with 60 dragon powers shouted and joined the battle. The demonic ape City Lord did not stop them. He believed that more people could help him capture Yi Xian. However, What he did not know was that these people were simply giving Yi Xian benefits. Ha ha ha, the heavens are helping me. Yi Xian's eyes widened. What he lacked was given to him. As long as he broke through once or twice, he could kill the demonic ape city lord. This time, there were 6 people who rushed out of the city lord manor. All of them had 66 dragon powers and above, and the strongest one had 68 dragon powers. The 6 of them joined the battle instantly, increasing the pressure on Yi Xian. It would be great if I could use Beast King's rampage once. Yi Xian felt helpless. Although these people were benefits, it was not that easy to kill one of them while being surrounded by 7 people. If he had enough sacred beast corpses, he could use Beast King's rampage. This would allow his 60 dragon powers to instantly increase to 80 dragon powers, giving him the ability to kill everyone in an instant. Unfortunately, he did not. I'm still a little short of corpses. As long as I kill 1 or 2 people, and if my luck is not too bad, I should be able to gather enough corpses. Yi Xian thought as he retreated. These people were all experts with 60 dragon powers, so there would definitely be sacred beast corpses with more than 60 dragon powers in their rings. Therefore, he decided to give it his all. Brat, die! The 68 Dragons martial artist suddenly shot forward and thrust his sword at Yi Xian's chest. But this time, Yi Xian had no intention of dodging. Let's fight! In the face of this person's attack, Yi Xian did not retreat. Instead, he charged forward with his chest puffed out. What? The 7 people present were all shocked. Was he going to risk his life? Hiss! While they were still in shock, a crisp sound rang out. They saw that Yi Xian's chest had been pierced by a long sword. It was only half a finger's distance away from his heart. Crazy! What a lunatic! This was the 7 people's evaluation of Yi Xian. Mother ***, I didn't get hurt for nothing. I'll make you pay with your lives. Yi Xian gritted his teeth and sent out a slash imbued with the aura of death, killing the cultivator who had pierced his chest. Then, he put away the other party's interspatial ring. Devour! Ding! The host has broken through to 61 dragons of strength. This was good news. But this was only the first piece of good news. The corpses are enough. Yi Xian's eyes shone brightly. What? Seeing Yi Xian suddenly form a new dragon, the 6 people present were all shocked. Not good. Suddenly, the Devil Ape City Mayor raised an eyebrow. He felt that Yi Xian was exuding an extremely dangerous aura, so he immediately made a decision. Devil Ape Transformation. The Devil Ape City Mayor immediately used his trump card. Then, his hair began to grow wildly. In the blink of an eye, he had transformed into a devil ape more than 2 meters tall. The number of dragons flying around him also increased to 75 dragons. Haha, you can do it, but so can I. Yi Xian roared at the sky. He ignored the long sword that had pierced his chest and immediately used Beast King Rampage. A formless pressure instantly spread out. 8 large dragons wriggled around his body. 80 dragons of strength. 80 dragons of strength, coupled with the Beast King bloodline's 2 agility advancements, made Yi Xian as fast as lightning. Rip! 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 Heads were tossed into the air one after another, accompanied by crisp sounds. In the blink of an eye, 6 experts from the city mayor's mansion were killed by Yi Xian. Ding! The host has broken through to 62 dragons of strength. When this notification sounded out, Yi Xian's number of flying dragons increased once again. 81 dragons. His speed also increased again. Now, the Devil Ape City Mayor knew that he had offended a peerless genius. This time he would pay the price in blood. Damn it! The Devil Ape City Master cursed in his heart. Soon after, his head flew into the air. The Devil Ape City Mayor was dead. After his death, his interspatial ring naturally fell into the hands of the berserk Yi Xian. Ding! The host has broken through to 64 dragons of strength. As a city mayor, the Devil Ape City Mayor was naturally wealthy. However, he was not stupid enough to put everything in his interspatial ring. Therefore, he only allowed Yi Xian to break through to 2 dragons of strength. However, Yi Xian's Beast King rampage had just begun. He did not want to waste this opportunity. Therefore, he chose to rush into the city mayor's mansion. Oh no, the city mayor is dead. The killing god is rushing in. The city mayor's mansion was in chaos. However, these people were relieved that Yi Xian did not intend to start a massacre. His goal was only the interspatial ring. Ding! The host has broken through to 65 dragons of strength. Ding! The host has broken through to 66 dragons of strength. As time passed, Yi Xian gained more and more. Every time he broke through, his experience points would increase. Therefore, the raid on the city mayor's mansion only allowed him to break through to 2 dragons of strength. However, this was not bad. Now, he had a speed that was comparable to 80 dragons of strength. On this day, the Devil Ape City was in chaos. News of the Devil Ape City mayor's death would probably spread very quickly. I killed the Devil Ape City mayor and raided the city mayor's mansion. Therefore, the Lord should be targeting me. When the time comes, my portrait will be put up as a wanted criminal. Instead of that, I might as well cause another ruckus. Yi Xian left the Devil Ape City and rode Wei Zhentian away. This time, his destination was the Gui Yuan sect. He wanted to use the soul-chasing mark to cause another ruckus before the news spread. Now, he understood the strength of the Gui Yuan sect. The sect leader was an expert with 85 dragons of strength. The sect had 10,000 disciples, 3,000 protectors, and 100 elders. Yi Xian estimated that this time, he should be able to break through to 70 dragons of strength, or even higher. Chapter 390. Attack the Gui Yuan sect. The Gui Yuan sect was located to the north of the Devil Ape City. Even an expert with 50 dragon power would need to spend 3 days to reach there. However, Yi Xian rode on Wei Zhentian and only spent 2 hours to arrive. At this moment, he was already 10,000 meters above the Gui Yuan sect. He commanded his might shakes the heavens to descend. When it was 1,000 meters away, he jumped down and landed in front of the Gui Yuan sect with a boom. He even shattered the huge stone tablet in front of the Gui Yuan sect. What? This big movement immediately attracted the attention of the guarding disciples. Someone actually dared to destroy the stone tablet of the Gui Yuan sect. He was really looking for death. How dare you behave so atrociously in my Gui Yuan sect? Everyone, be careful. He has a soul-chasing mark on him. Quick, inform the protectors and elders. The disciples immediately surrounded him, but no one dared to step forward. The masked man, Yi Xian, descended from the sky and destroyed the stone tablet of the Gui Yuan sect. Normal people would not dare to do such a thing. As for these disciples, they only had 50 dragon power at most. If they went up, they would be sending themselves to their deaths. Yi Xian would not foolishly wait here for the elders to arrive. He looked around and his figure flashed. Following that, cries of agony rang out one after another. Ah, my hand! My interspatial ring! Everyone, leave quickly. This person wants to rob our Gui Yuan sect. In front of the Gui Yuan sect's mountain gate, there were cries of anguish. These disciples could not catch up to Yi Xian's speed and could only cry and shout. After collecting the interspatial rings, Yi Xian immediately rushed into the Gui Yuan sect. He wanted to increase his strength before the higher-ups of the Gui Yuan sect arrived. In the Gui Yuan sect, those with more than 55 dragons could become protectors, and 60 dragons were elders. Of course, the elders were also divided into ranks. The strongest elder had the strength of 80 dragons, and the sect leader was an expert with a strength of 85 dragons. In the Vigor realm, every advancement was extremely difficult. If one did not have the assistance of heavenly and earthly treasures, they would have to work hard. Therefore, most people would stay in their own residences to cultivate. After Yi Xian broke through the mountain gate, he directly entered the residence of the disciples and began to rob from door to door. These disciples were not strong enough to stop Yi Xian at all. Among them, there were some female disciples who were in the middle of bathing and had their interspatial rings taken away by him. The Gui Yuan sect was in chaos. No one was able to grasp the exact location of Yi Xian. After sweeping through the residences of the Gui Yuan sect disciples, Yi Xian focused his attention on the buildings. The weapon shop, the martial arts pavilion, the spirit herb hall, and even the cafeteria were all visited by him. I've finished cleaning up the outer sect. Let's head to the inner sect now. Yi Xian thought to himself as he rushed towards the origin returning sect's inner sect. This time, he had gained quite a bit, allowing him to break through from 66 dragons to 67 dragons. This trip was indeed worth it. The Gui Yuan sect's inner sect was the most important. The inner sect disciples were stronger than the outer sect disciples. Furthermore, the elders and protectors all lived here. Although there weren't many of them, the value of the inner sect was higher than that of the outer sect. Yi Xian took advantage of the fact that the Gui Yuan sect hadn't reacted yet to plunder without restraint. At this moment, in the Gui Yuan sect's Gui Yuan treasure hall, 3 people were sitting there and chatting. Son, it's not easy for you to come back. Why don't you stay for a few more days before leaving? The Gui Yuan sect leader looked at his son whom he hadn't seen for many years and said slowly. The young man in front of him smiled and shook his head. Father, I came back this time because it was on the way. A disciple of the sect who was traveling outside found a relic by chance, so I came to investigate. Oh, what kind of relic is it? The Gui Yuan sect leader asked curiously. This? The young man was stunned and turned to look at the old man beside him. It's fine. The exploration this time will be led by you juniors. I am only following orders to ensure your safety. You can decide for yourself. The old man squinted his eyes and said. The young man nodded and said, Father, this relic is said to have been built by the 6th Lord of the Redwood Territory, Qi Lian. The 6th Lord? The Gui Yuan sect leader was stunned. The Gui Yuan sect was under the jurisdiction of the Redwood Territory, and the current Redwood Territory Lord was the 8th Lord. Therefore, he understood immediately. The 6th Lord, it is said that he had a great battle with an expert and then went missing. At that time, he had already broken through to level 1 Qi controlling realm and his strength was extraordinary. Moreover, he was proficient in refining corpses. He had once refined 2 silver corpses that were comparable to level 1 Qi controlling realm experts. The young man explained. Yes, I have also heard that these 2 silver corpses were 2 generals under his command when they were alive. However, they were killed because of betrayal and were refined into silver corpses by him. The Gui Yuan sect leader nodded and said, However, although the 6th Lord is dead, there must be danger in the relic. I'm afraid. Father, you don't have to worry. We are not entering the relic this time. We are just cleaning up the area around the relic. Those sacred beasts only have 80 dragon strength at most. They are no match for me. When the young man said this, he habitually revealed a proud expression. He was 23 years old this year and had already broken through to 80 dragon strength. He was the disciple of an elder in the Heavenly Hatred Sword sect. The Heavenly Hatred Sword sect was quite famous in the Redwood Territory. It was said that the sect leader had already surpassed 100 dragon strength and was the #1 expert under the spirit realm. I see. Then I can rest assured. The Gui Yuan sect leader nodded. All right, Father. I should leave now. My senior and junior brothers are waiting for me. After the young man finished speaking, he stood up. However, at this moment, rumble. Suddenly, a series of loud noises came from outside the main hall, causing the 3 of them to frown. What's going on? Don't you know that sparring is prohibited within 3 miles of the Gui Yuan Treasure Palace? The Gui Yuan sect leader frowned. Just as he finished speaking, an elder rushed in and said, Sect leader, this is bad. Something big has happened. What happened? The Gui Yuan sect leader frowned and asked. He felt that something big had happened. Sovereign, a thief has invaded our Gui Yuan sect and robbed our Gui Yuan sect's disciples, guardians and elders. The elder reported. Thieves? Robbed? The Gui Yuan sect leader was stunned and asked, What is this person's realm? The elder paused for a moment and said, When I saw him just now, he was at 69 dragon strength. Now I am not sure. What do you mean? The Gui Yuan sect leader did not understand. It's like this. According to the reports of the disciples, when this person appeared in front of our Gui Yuan sect, he only had 66 dragon strength. Then, he kept breaking through, 67 dragon strength, 68 dragon strength, 69 dragon strength. The elder said while swallowing his saliva. What? In such a short period of time, he broke through from 66 dragon strength to 69 dragon strength? And he is still breaking through? The Gui Yuan sect leader was shocked. Not only that, the young man and the old man were the same. Chapter 391. Translator, Nyoibo Studio Editor. Nyoibo Studio Ransacking. Then why didn't you capture him and bring him to me? The Gui Yuan sect leader asked in surprise. The elder swallowed his saliva and said, We don't have a choice. Although this kid only has 69 dragons of strength, His speed is astonishing. Dozens of elders have already been heavily injured by him, and he has taken all of their universe rings. Right now, he is fighting with the Great Elder. 69 dragons of strength against the Great Elder who has 80 dragons of strength? The Gue Yuan sect leader opened his eyes wide. This was a battle that surpassed 11 dragons of strength. The elder added, "Sect leader, you should go quickly. If you are too late, he will break through to 70 dragons of strength. Let's go." The Gue Yuan sect leader's face turned cold as he strode out of the Gue Yuan treasure hall. The young man and the elder looked at each other and followed him. Although the young man was a disciple of the Heaven's Hatred Sword sect, he was once a member of the Gue Yuan sect. Naturally, he would not allow such a thing to happen. At this moment, in the large square of the Gue Yuan sect, two figures were fighting. One of them was Yi Xian. "Ha ha ha, Great Elder, you are finished." Underworld swordsmanship. Sword descends to the underworld. Yi Xian laughed and swept out his sword. Immediately after, an arm was thrown into the sky. The elder in front of him had a gloomy expression as he was sent flying with a kick. Yi Xian caught the broken arm and took off the universe ring. Ding! The host has broken through to 70 dragons of strength. When he heard the notification, the corners of Yi Xian's mouth couldn't help but curl up. No wonder so many people would engage in this kind of business. It turned out that it was so profitable. However, Yi Xian was only ransacking the Gue Yuan sect. From the beginning until now, he had not harmed anyone's life. The Great Elder's arm was suddenly chopped off, but as long as it was not chopped into pieces, it could be reattached. He only needed to rest for a while. When the surrounding people saw the Great Elder with 80 dragons of strength being chopped off by Yi Xian and then kicked away like a piece of trash, they were shocked speechless. Who was this person wearing a smiley face mask? What kind of grudge did he have with the Gue Yuan sect? What should we do? Even the Great Elder was defeated. Only the sect leader can suppress him. Not necessarily. Didn't you see how much faster that brat is than the Great Elder? And now that he has broken through, even if the sect leader comes, I'm afraid. Humph, even if sect leader can't win, can't he join forces with the other elders? A group of people from the Gue Yuan sect whispered to each other as their gazes landed on Yi Xian. "Brat, who the hell are you?" The Great Elder who had lost an arm questioned. "Hee, your Gue Yuan sect is arrogant and despotic, so I am here to suppress your arrogance." Yi Xian smiled slightly. The head elder of the Gue Yuan sect had a cold expression on his face. He had also heard about what had happened to the disciples of the Gue Yuan sect. Today, he had finally gotten his revenge. "If you have the guts, don't leave. The sect leader of the Gue Yuan sect will be here soon." The Great Elder shouted in a low voice. "Do you think I can't tell that you are trying to provoke me? However, since you have placed your hopes on your sect leader, I will go along with your wishes. I want to see what the sect leader of the Gue Yuan sect, an expert with 85 dragons of strength, is capable of." Yi Xian just stood there quietly. When he finished speaking, 3 figures entered his eyes. It's the sect leader. The sect leader is here. Haha, this brat is dead for sure. He actually dared to rob our Gue Yuan sect. The sect leader will definitely skin him alive. Isn't that the young sect leader? I heard that the young sect leader was accepted as a disciple by an elder of the Heavenly Hatred Sword sect. I didn't expect him to come back today. When this large group of people saw the sect leader of the Gue Yuan sect, their morale immediately rose. The sect leader of the Gue Yuan sect quickly walked down. He looked at Yi Xian and asked in shock, "Who are you?" "You are the sect leader of the Gue Yuan sect?" Yi Xian asked in return. "That's right." After receiving the sect leader's answer, Yi Xian continued, "Your people from the Gue Yuan sect once offended me and left a soul-chasing mark on me. Therefore, I am here today to seek justice." When the sect leader of the Gue Yuan sect heard this, he couldn't help but frown. "You have no evidence. Why should I believe you? If that's the case, then what are you waiting for? Aren't you going to cut me into 8 pieces?" Yi Xian said coldly. "All right, since that's the case, then let me see what you're capable of." The sect leader of the Gue Yuan sect took out a long sword and slowly walked over. Yi Xian also gripped the Bahuang sword tightly and raised his attention to the sect leader. The sect leader of the Gue Yuan sect was a sect leader. He was an 85 dragons expert. He had probably already trained his martial arts to 100% mastery. As for Yi Xian's heaven-shattering body technique, he had just trained it to 90% mastery. I can still use Beast King's Rage once, but it's too wasteful. Let's try it first. Yi Xian held his sword and walked over. The two of them stood opposite each other. The atmosphere was very tense. Under the gazes of tens of thousands of people, they finally made their move. Pang! Boom! Clang! The two of them began to fight. It was just the beginning, but the battle was already very intense. Among everyone present, there were probably less than 10 people who could see the two of them clearly. Where did this brat come from? His talent is not any worse than yours. The old man beside the junior sect leader of the Gue Yuan sect narrowed his eyes and whispered. The junior sect leader of the Gue Yuan sect's eyes shot out 2 rays of light. He felt that Yi Xian seemed to be even younger than him. This made him feel a little unhappy. Humph. Father will definitely skin him alive. The young man snorted. That might not be the case. Why don't we make a bet? The old man suddenly said with interest. Elder Yen, what do you want to bet? The young man asked curiously. What do you want? The old man asked back. The young man paused and replied, I heard that Elder Yen obtained a 500-year-old dragon's bloodgrass a few days ago. All right, if your father wins, I will give you this 500-year-old dragon's bloodgrass. It will be enough for you to break through to 85 dragons. If your father loses, I don't need anything from you. Just treat it as a slap to my own face. The old man said very straightforwardly. Deal. The young man immediately agreed. This was a sure-win deal. If his father won, he would get a 500-year-old dragon's bloodgrass. If his father lost, he would not lose anything. Even a fool would do this deal. They looked at the battlefield. At this moment, the battle had already reached its climax. Although only 10 seconds had passed, Yi Xian and the sovereign of the Gue Yuan sect had already exchanged more than 100 blows. Brat, I admit that you are very strong. But do you think that if we continue to fight, you can win against me? The sovereign of the Gue Yuan sect said coldly. How do you know I can't? Yi Xian asked back. Chapter 392. Being hunted after all, Yi Xian's recovery ability was extremely strong. Even after fighting for so long, he was still in peak condition. On the other hand, the Gue Yuan sect leader's vital energy and physical strength were both decreasing rapidly. If the battle continued for another half a minute, the difference between them would be obvious. Humph, since that is the case, I will show you the Gue Yuan sect's secret martial art. The Gue Yuan sect leader roared as his vital energy surged. In the blink of an eye, his strength increased by 3 dragons. 88 dragons. What? Yi Xian was slightly surprised. He did not expect the Gue Yuan sect leader to have such a martial art. However, his expression only changed slightly. Soon after, a smile appeared on his face. You know it, so do I. Yi Xian's eyes widened as the hair on his body grew thicker. In the blink of an eye, he transformed into a devil ape. This was the devil ape transformation of the devil ape city mayor. Yi Xian had obtained this after killing the devil ape city mayor. It was also a heaven-level martial art. However, the devil ape transformation did not have any proficiency. Every time it was used, it would consume 1 drop of the devil ape king's blood essence. The devil ape city mayor only had 3 drops of the devil ape king's blood essence in his yin and yang ring. He had used it once, so Yi Xian had obtained 2. Now, Yi Xian had also used 1. In the blink of an eye, 70 dragons of strength increased to 75 dragons of strength, which was even more than the Gue Yuan sect leaders. Originally, Yi Xian and the Gue Yuan sect leader's speed were about the same. However, now that both of them had used martial arts to increase their strength, the gap had widened. Yi Xian's speed had surpassed the Gue Yuan sect leaders. What? The Gue Yuan sect leader was so shocked that he almost vomited blood. He did not expect Yi Xian to know the devil ape transformation of the devil ape city mayor. This was a tragedy. I originally wanted to use it sparingly, but you forced me to use it. Don't blame me for this. Yi Xian's eyes flashed as his body moved as fast as lightning. He rushed in front of the Gue Yuan sect leader. Not good. The expression of the old man who was watching from afar changed. His figure also dashed out rapidly. His speed far surpassed that of Yi Xian. However, This had happened so suddenly that he was a little slower. Underworld swordsmanship. Sword descends to the underworld. Hiss. With a crisp sound, one of the Gue Yuan sect leader's arms was thrown into the air. Seeing this, Yi Xian's eyes turned red. An 85 Dragon Power Expert's Universe Ring. How many good things would there be? However, just as he was about to succeed, a burst of energy suddenly attacked from the side. What? Yi Xian turned his head and saw a palm coming at him. This power was definitely not something he could block. What? 120 dragon power? Through the shadow of the fist, he discovered that there were 12 flying dragons rising around the elder. 12 big flying dragons. This meant that this old man was a super expert with 120 dragon power. It was rumored that when a martial artist broke through to 100 dragons, they could attempt to break through to the spirit realm. 120 dragons was far more than 100 dragons. How could there be a super expert with 120 dragons here? Damn it, I'll go all out. Yi Xian cursed in his heart. Without hesitation, he used Beast King Rampage. Boom. A burst of energy suddenly rose. Yi Xian's 75 dragons instantly increased to 99 dragons. Bang! The palm hit Yi Xian and sent him flying. This time, the old man was also dumbstruck. Yi Xian's 75 dragons suddenly increased to 24 dragons. What kind of heaven-defying martial art was this? He was very surprised. At this moment, Yi Xian landed on the ground. This old man underestimated my strength. That was close. I was almost killed by his palm. Yi Xian spat out a mouthful of blood. His entire body was aching. He knew that if the old man attacked with all his strength, he would not be able to survive even if he increased his strength to nearly 100 dragons. He would definitely be smashed into minced meat. Retreat! Facing such a powerful enemy, he did not hesitate at all. He immediately jumped up and ran away. This kid can't be left alive. The old man's eyes flashed. They were full of murderous intent. He was not afraid of Yi Xian. He was afraid that Yi Xian would return to the Origin sect after escaping. After all, he was about to leave the Origin sect. He couldn't possibly stay here, right? Therefore, Yi Xian had to die. In the blink of an eye, he gave chase. But in the next moment, he realized that Yi Xian's speed was not any slower than his. How was this possible? He can surpass the speed of an 85 dragon warrior with only 75 dragons of strength. Now, he is evenly matched with my 120 dragons of strength. This kid can't be left alive, the old man said in his heart. He followed closely behind Yi Xian. The two of them quickly disappeared from everyone's sight. Yi Xian's speed was not slower than the old man's. However, he had used a technique. Therefore, the old man only needed to chase for a while before he could catch up. Damn it, what a blunder. Why is there a super expert with 120 dragons of strength here? Yi Xian cursed in his heart. If the old man had not suddenly attacked him, he would have obtained the Origin sect leader's universe ring and broken through again. It was also because of this old man that he gave up on the interspatial ring and turned tail to run. After all, if he was caught by the old man, the consequences would be unimaginable. However, the current him was still in danger. Kid, don't waste your energy. You can't escape. The old man's voice sounded. Bull**T. Yi Xian could not help but curse. At this moment, he had already left the Origin sect. He thought quickly in his mind. Suddenly, he remembered that there was a dangerous place north of the Origin sect. Even an expert with 100 dragons of strength would not dare to enter. It seemed that he could only use this place to get rid of the old man. After all, he still had Wei Zhentian as his trump card. If the old man wanted to catch up to him, he would have to grow a pair of wings or break through to the spirit realm. That's the place. Go. Yi Xian gathered his courage and started to run frantically. This kid wants to enter the netherworld abyss. He's courting death. The old man seemed to have seen through Yi Xian's intentions and snorted in his heart. The netherworld abyss was the most dangerous place in the Redwood territory. Even an expert with 120 dragons of strength would not dare to enter. Although Yi Xian had the strength of nearly 100 dragons, once he stepped in, it was possible that he would fall into a state of eternal damnation. Most importantly, the old man knew that there was a time limit for Yi Xian to suddenly become stronger. Once the time was up, if he stayed inside, he would definitely die. The old man was not in a hurry because the duration of Yi Xian's Beast King rampage had exceeded his expectations. He estimated that Yi Xian could slow down at any time. The two of them maintained this distance and slowly approached the netherworld abyss. Yi Xian's Beast King rampage lasted for a long time, but the Devil Ape transformation did not have much time left. Oh no, do I have to use the Devil Ape transformation again? Chapter 393. The netherworld abyss. Yi Xian had only obtained 2 drops of the Devil Ape King's blood essence. He had only used 1 drop just now. In other words, he could only use the Devil Ape transformation 1 more time. However, if he didn't use it, he would definitely be caught. But at this moment... The netherworld mist? Yi Xian opened his eyes wide as if he saw hope. Not far ahead was the netherworld abyss, the most dangerous place in the Redwood territory. This time, he had to risk his life again. The old man also saw the netherworld abyss and hesitated. He was wondering if he should go in and take Yi Xian's head. He kept hesitating until Yi Xian entered the purple mist. But when Yi Xian stepped in, the effect of the Devil Ape transformation suddenly disappeared, causing his speed to decrease greatly. Good chance, 3 days muscle-shattering palm. The old man quickly followed and slapped out with his palm, hitting Yi Xian's back. The 3 days muscle-shattering palm was a mid-grade heaven-level martial art. Although he didn't master it well, it was enough to kill a person. Yi Xian was hit again and flew out. You were hit by my 3 days muscle-shattering palm. In these 3 days, your meridians will continue to crack and it will be extremely difficult to repair until you die. The old man's eyes shone with a murderous light. He continued to chase and take Yi Xian's interspatial ring. He wasn't coveting the things in Yi Xian's interspatial ring. He was preparing to return it to the Gui Yuan sect. As an expert with 120 dragon power, he didn't want to do such a thing. Moreover, he didn't want to do it. But at this moment, hiss! Suddenly, a loud hissing sound was heard. The sound was so sharp that it hurt the old man's ears. He couldn't help but stop in his tracks. When he recognized the shrill cry, his expression changed abruptly. A flying centipede comparable to a level 2 chi controlling realm? The old man opened his eyes wide and hurriedly retreated. He didn't dare to enter the purple mist. Although he had 120 dragon power, he was still in the strength realm. As for the spirit realm, every time he broke through, he would obtain 100 dragon power. Second level of the royal air tier was equivalent to 200 dragons. No, it should be at least 200 dragons, because 200 to 299 dragons were all considered to be at the second level of the royal air tier. The old man was only 120 dragons, so how could he dare to stay here? When he heard the screams, he was almost scared out of his wits. Naturally, he did not dare to pursue Yi Xian and immediately fled. At this moment, Yi Xian had also entered the mist. Phew, luckily he didn't chase after me. Yi Xian heaved a sigh of relief. However, he was also heavily injured. To be able to scare off an expert with 120 dragons with just a roar, it must be a super saint beast. I can't stay here any longer. Retreat! Yi Xian thought to himself and immediately left the fog. He had the Beast King bloodline in his body. Before he came in, he felt several auras that made his heart palpitate. Fortunately, these powerful saint beasts were not interested in him. Otherwise, he would be finished. This time, he was still scared but not in danger. This gave Yi Xian a sense of joy as he was reborn from the jaws of death. However, the old man's 3 days breaking tendon's hand made him suffer for the next 3 days. I will definitely take revenge for this. Just you wait. Heaven Grudge Sword Sect, right? I will remember this. Yi Xian roared in his heart. He had just heard the words Heaven Grudge Sword Sect. It was obvious that the old man was from the Heaven Grudge Sword Sect. After he came out of the netherworld abyss, he quickly summoned Wei Zhentian and flew into the sky. This was because he was in so much pain that he could not walk. Damn it, this move is really vicious. It actually kept tearing my meridians. If I didn't have the sacred tree of life's bloodline, I'm afraid I would have died. Yi Xian cursed in the air. The old man would never have thought that Yi Xian could survive the attack of the medium heaven level 3 days breaking tendon's hand. After the old man left, he returned to the Gui Yuan sect. Elder Yen, where is he? When the young man saw the old man return, he immediately asked. Elder Yen shook his head and said, "He escaped into the netherworld abyss and coincidentally encountered a flying centipede, so I did not chase after him. But don't worry, he was hit by my 3 days breaking tendon's hand. In addition to the side effects of that martial art, he will definitely die." Hearing this, the young man heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed that the Gue Yuan sect was fine. Yes, be careful this time. The Gue Yuan sect leader was also relieved. Elder Yen was an expert with 120 dragon strength, so Yi Xian was definitely going to die. Your father's arm is fine. All right, it's getting late. Let's go. Elder Yen said to the young man. Okay. The young man replied, then turned to the Gue Yuan sect leader and said, "Father, I will take my leave first." This time, Yi Xian rested for 3 whole days. Although he had broken through to 70 dragon strength, he had wasted a chance to use Beast King's rampage, which was not worth it. After being hit by the 3 days breaking tendon's hand, Yi Xian roared for 3 whole days. The heart-wrenching pain was torturous to him. He had to take revenge. 3 days later, in a barren mountain in the north of the Gue Yuan sect. Damn it, it hurt for 3 days. Wait until I break through, I will kill my way to your Heaven's Grudge Sword sect. In a cave, Yi Xian's angry voice could be heard. Then he walked out. What he wanted to do the most now was to break through. Break through, break through. Only when he was stronger could he take revenge. He did not dare to go to the Gue Yuan sect again. He did not know if the old man was still there. Therefore, this time, he wanted to go to a place to train, to break through and increase his strength. At the same time, he would hunt some Saint Beast corpses. If he wanted to use Beast King's rampage again, he would need a large number of Saint Beast corpses with 80 dragon strength and above. This time, his destination was a place called the Een Ruins. There were many Saint Beasts in the Een Ruins, such as Een Wind Mantises, Een Wind Spiders, Een Wind Centipedes, etc. They were all Saint Beasts that liked the dark. These Saint Beasts were very difficult for ordinary people to deal with. After all, these creatures were poisonous. However, this was a piece of cake for Yi Xian. Immediately, he moved towards the Een Ruins. Now, he had broken through to 70 dragon strength. Wei Zhentian had also eaten close to 70 dragon strength. Moreover, it seemed that he was going to break through faster than Yi Xian. With its help, Yi Xian's hunting speed would increase by a lot. In less than half a day, he arrived above the Een Ruins. "Little Tian, go down," Yi Xian ordered. Wei Zhentian quickly descended and put Yi Xian down. The Een Ruins was a strange place. Even if it was daytime in other places, it was endless night here. There was not a trace of sunlight. It was said that this place was a prosperous city thousands of years ago. There were hundreds of them. However, it was later abandoned and turned into a nest of dark creatures. "Little Tian, help me scout up there," Yi Xian ordered again.